Here we go!
Hey there, my name's Bubba.
My name's Anna.
And you're watching and or listening to Church Nerds, a proud member of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. And this is our season finale.
Yeah.
Was it trumpet?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, we did it.
we did
most
something.
of it. We did most of it.
We
were in the process
3/4 of it.
Of doing it.
We did miss a couple of episodes.
Hey.
Oh, sorry. I have to set the expectation and acknowledge the fact that we're not the best. We are not the worst.
Definitely not the
We're
worst.
also not the best.
We have been the worst. Last season? It was last season we were the worst.
I think we didn't record at all.
Two episodes,
I'm
remember?
like, oh yeah, it was bad.
Yep.
It was real bad.
And so we did.
Even then, I don't know if I could say we were the worst.
Fair enough. We did more this season.
We did.
I don't know how many.
We tried really hard and still are. And that is why we are here.
We really only do 4 episodes this season?
I told you it felt like not many.
How is that possible?
Yeah. That's why I said I thought it was about half.
We tried.
Yeah, well, you know.
We tried.
For the love. Okay, I thought I turned that off.
Speaking of trying, we tried to start this recording already.
Uh-huh.
And we sat here for 40 minutes.
We sure did.
Sat here for 40 minutes.
Writing and having ideas.
And then in
Uninterrupted.
total silence. And PJ, the moment we started recording, he came in.
Yep.
And needed something.
Yep.
And I was just like, how?
Started throwing fits.
He just knows. Kids have this
They know.
radar
It's
that
true.
goes off.
So true. Yeah.
Anyway, he's watching something.
He is watching. This is appropriate. Word party.
Word party.
The party's just begun.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
word
already
party.
get flagged. Sorry.
You thought you were that good at? I don't know. I think you're fine. I don't know. Word party. What is that?
It's a PBS show about phonics, probably.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, okay. Words. All right. That makes a lot of sense.
Word party.
Dude, you came in last night. Was that last night? You came in last night with a dinosaur book with PJ.
Oh,
and you're like,
yeah.
let me show you this.
Uh-huh.
And sorry, proud parent moment for just a second. PJ, but we're married. I don't know who is and is not understood. We have the same last name. We're not brother and sister. We're married.
Oh, yikes.
High five.
Yeah, okay.
And so anyway, PJ comes in. He's our youngest, and
He is 3.
3 years old. And he's fairly articulate. We're working on some things, but he's learning things all over the place. He goes to school at our church school, so I never know what he is or is not learning. He just
True. Yeah.
I don't know. He's a sponge right now for
I don't
things.
think he learned this particular bit at school.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. So
I
guys
talked
come
to his
in.
teacher about it today.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, was she impressed too?
Yes, she was.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
So he comes in, or you come in with him, and you're like, "Hey, watch this," and you have this this page with fish on it.
Yeah.
Some fish are facing one way, some fish are facing the other, and you're like, "Hey, PJ, what way is this fish facing?" He's like, "Right," and that is the correct answer. Could happen. Could happen to anybody. Sometimes I get that right. Hey, PJ, which way is this one facing? Left. That is a correct answer. And I think the only times he got it wrong, he was like looking at something else.
He was distracted.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
there were dinosaurs on the other page.
He definitely knows the correct answers. Now, we did try to say, is this, show me your right hand and show me your left hand. And we're not quite there as far as like to our own body, right and left, but he knows on those pages, the fish and the dinosaurs, which one is facing which way. He knows it, right and left.
That was
And
wild
I'm
to
pretty
me.
impressed.
I know adults that don't know. You might be an adult that doesn't know that.
We did know a woman who was like a senior adult, and she still had to do this to figure out which was her right and left hand.
Left makes an L.
Left makes an L.
Just in case you're, and if you don't know, we have a whole lot of other things to talk about, but like, just get it tattooed on your hands.
You could do that.
But make sure they tattoo the correct one, because if you get right on your left hand, you're done.
That would be...
You're done.
Well, I remember standing in front of a sibling of mine and being all the way angry, like red in the face, mad, facing one another, saying, "This is right." And the other one being like, "No, this is right." And like ready to come to blows over it. And my mom was like, "Pause. You are both correct because right and left are subjective."
Yeah. They're both definitive and subjective. That's like a whole nother like explosion brain moment.
Anyway, it's complicated.
This is
all
left.
I'm trying to say.
This is left. It's not subjective.
It's left to you.
It's relative. It's not subjective.
Okay. It's left to you.
Hey, because words matter. All right.
They do.
We're going to talk about that later.
Okay. Well.
Hey, anyway, we're Love Thy Nerd. We're not Love Thy Word. We're Love Thy Nerd. And so I just came up with that right now. Guys,
Love Thy Word.
Sometimes.
Love Thy Word. New band name I call it.
Sometimes I
or like that sounds like a book club name.
Just on fire. What can I say? That would be a good book club.
Or like a ladies' Bible study though. I don't.
Hey, why not both?
It just got cringy. I'm walking away from it.
No. Because you can do like those little like water.
No, I just hear Amy Grant in my head. Like Thy Word is a lamp to my feet.
Yeah,
that one.
And
you know,
I'm
I'm not gonna sing the whole thing.
Yeah, I've read the Bible before. I'm familiar with the book.
But you can hear the Amy Grant song in your head, though, right?
I hear a lot of things in my head.
Anyway,
right now,
that's what I hear, and that's why I'm like, no, Love Thy Word. I'm putting it back on the table, and somebody else can have it. It's not mine anymore.
I'm going to go ahead and trademark it just in case. You never know when you might need it. No, anyway, we're not that kind of podcast. This is Anna and I coming together to kind of find spaces where nerd culture and Christian culture might overlap. It doesn't have to be nerdy all the time. It doesn't always have to be Christian all the time, but sometimes we share these two things. And today we're going to be talking about etymology. Okay. And etymology is like the history of words and how they became and all that stuff. And so
study, right? Because it's ology.
Ology. Yeah. Well, history is kind of a study of, but yes, you're exactly right. We're not going to do deep dives into all these words, but we're going to be talking about. We are
incapable of this.
We are not smart enough.
We're not qualified.
But we do have the internet. So we're going to look at some words that we use in nerd culture, and we're going to play a game here in just a minute to kind of test Anna's knowledge of that. And then we're also going to look at some of the words that we use in Christian culture and kind of see progressively how those two jive and grow. So, hey, let's just get into it because I want to play this game.
All right.
You want to play your game first?
Or do we want to end with that game?
Well, now we set a really weak hook. So I don't know if you guys have ever played like the game. I don't know if it's called Medium or what it's called. I know that sounds like really like new agey or occultish, but it's really not. You count to 3. I think it's called Medium. You count to 3, and then you each say a word, and you're trying to get on the same wavelength. Okay.
Huh?
And then you do that until you get on the same wavelength. Now it's worth noting that our kids love to play this game, and they are so bad at it.
I introduced them to it.
They are so bad at it. So bad at it.
Some of them are better than others.
Caleb is starting to get it.
He was the worst originally.
He wanted everything to be Fortnite. Everything was Fortnite, something or others.
Real bad. It's very difficult.
Naomi, our daughter, she just doubles down. She's 10 years old. She just doubles down on the thing that she's thinking about.
More and more and more
it's
specific.
Like dessert, strawberries, strawberry cake, strawberry cream cake, strawberry cream cake with frosting. It's like, dude, that's not what we're doing right now. We're trying to guess the same word, and you're not even listening to what's going on. And then Levi just, you say 1, 2, 3, and it's like blank stare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Birds, never heard of them.
it's
You
fine.
and I will
It's
say this. I'm
fine.
gonna give this setup here, okay? You and I, first time ever.
You can't tell them this because then they're going to have expectations about how this is going to go.
I want everybody to have the most expectations so that this just goes on forever and it's terrible and it's like, it's entertainment.
We can recreate it.
Oh, no, I don't. We don't need to have a dramatic reenactment.
It would just be faster.
It would, but then there's no story in it. And so we sit down. I was like, all right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1. And we said pancake,
banana,
and banana. So banana, pancake. All right. For Anna and I, 3, 2, 1. Jack Johnson. All right.
100%.
And the kids are like,
easy.
What? What is a Jack Johnson? How did that even happen? And I was like, hey, mommy and my first dance was.
I don't know if you could. Like the only way you could get it to be faster than that is if you, on a whim, said the same word.
No, because like that kind of stuff to me is like when you guess Wordle on the first try. And it's like, you didn't play. You're not playing anything. You got lucky, right? Like there's no skill involved. You just got lucky. So getting Wordle on 2, I think then you did something. But anyway, so we got Jack Johnson and told the kids, hey, our first dance was to a song called Better Together by Jack Johnson. He is an artist. Mommy and I like him. He has a song called Banana Pancakes. For us, brains worked in a flash of a millisecond, right? They were still just like, that doesn't make any sense. How did you do that?
Yeah.
Because them, it took 9 hours.
Oh my goodness.
But
yeah.
So I give you that setup so that you can watch this train wreck that's about to happen. I just know it is. I just know that it is. Okay. So again, you're trying to say one word. Jack Johnson is 2 words, but that was the next step for us.
It was.
You're trying to say one word. You're trying to guess the same word. Okay. Are you ready?
Are we doing this?
Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. I'm not super ready. Now my heart is racing a little bit because like people are watching and listening. And, this is the situation where Levi, if he would cry. Right. Okay. So ready? 1, 2, 3.
Bottle.
Red.
Huh?
Red.
Okay.
Red bottle. 1, 2, 3.
Big
Coke.
red.
Oh no. 1, 2, 3. Soda. Boom, baby.
That's pretty
Why
good.
didn't you say Coke in the first place?
Big red. It's a bottle of red soda.
Hey,
it's not a red bottle of soda.
All I'm saying, that was 2 words. Coke, red label, 1 word. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay. Everybody forgives you. We all forgive you, right, everybody? What's that? I'm wrong? Okay, I understood. Hey, you want to do it again?
That felt too easy.
I don't know.
Are we just amazing at this? That's 2 out of 2 times.
But that one took 3.
Well, I know.
So we're getting progressively
still was
worse.
so fast.
We're getting progressively worse.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Food.
Hail. What'd you say?
Food.
Okay. Okay.
Hold on. Hey, hail. Food. 3, 2, 1.
Cloudy
Ice
with
cream.
a chance of meatballs.
You did not say cloudy with a chance of meatballs. You are your mother, your daughter's mother for sure. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
Food weather. Okay, what do we say?
gosh.
Cloudy with a chance of meatballs and ice cream?
Ice cream. 3, 2, 1.
Sprinkles.
Rain. No. Rain and sprinkles. 3, 2, 1.
Drops.
Weather. Drops. Weather drops. 3, 2, 1. Precipitation. I didn't like that. I mean, I'm glad that it ended. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs.
I don't know what to do. Hail and food. Food weather.
You don't need to try to create content. We do that naturally.
I'm just saying what came into my head.
Yeah, well, we need to render every thought captive. Right?
Okay.
Hey,
Anyway.
play that game. Play that game at home with your significant other, and also maybe don't yell at them.
It's good yelling.
Yeah, good yelling.
Yeah.
Encouragement yelling. Good job with the weird answer.
Exhortation.
Great weird answer you had there.
Spurring someone on. Have you ever heard of that? Like spur one another on toward love and good deeds. When it's like, when are spurs ever a good thing?
San Antonio Spurs. Yep. It's a basketball team.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Hey, speaking of basketball teams, I want to play a game with you. And this is not really a game where we're going to like keep score. Okay. But what I want to do is, again, in talking about all of these like different terms and like the terminology that we use and all sorts of stuff, I want to, from the nerd side, from gamer side, I want to see if you know what I would consider to be some pretty common terms.
And there's a reason why he's quizzing me and I'm not quizzing him. And that's because it's going to be bad. I'm not going to know a lot of this.
Oh, yeah, I would probably get a lot of these.
Yes.
This is my language.
This is going to be like malarkey or what is it malarkey? There's another balderdash.
I don't know what you're doing right now.
Isn't balderdash
I'm not going to, you're not.
You hear a word and you try to decide what the definition of that word means.
Yeah.
And you submit an answer.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how to play balderdash. So
you can't even hardly say it.
Balderdash. Balderdash.
Okay. Anyway.
Baldur's Gate and Dash.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Hey. Easy one. I don't know what his sister is actually doing right now.
She may have tried to just rescue us.
Maybe. Hopefully she did. Okay. That pause was because we heard the door jiggle, and that is always PJ.
It is.
Always PJ.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Here we go.
Okay. Ready.
Aggro.
Aggro would be like when like a really intense and like ragey, like raging out, aggressively. Like in a game, it would probably be killing something, but
that's not a bad
it's
guess.
just really intense. That's
not a bad guess. So aggro, I'm going to read you the actual definitions that we have here. Okay.
Okay.
Aggro refers to the attention from in-game enemies, often relating to the distance at which an enemy will notice the player character, and engage in combat.
Okay.
Or in a multiplayer setting, the player being targeted by an enemy.
Okay.
So you would aggro them. You would make them mad, make them aggressive,
Okay.
and then they would come towards you.
Aggravate them.
Aggravate.
Okay.
Yep. Aggro. Okay. You'll hear a lot of nerds say, "Oh man, hey, I can't play tonight. I got wife aggro." Like,
you're in the doghouse.
yes, yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Here's another one.
Okay.
AOE.
AOE.
Feel free to play along at home.
All orange.
Definitely, yeah. So let's go where, yeah.
AOE. I don't know.
All orange what?
I can't even think of any words to start. Eggs.
All orange eggs. Yeah, that's it. I don't know how you got it.
I can't think of any E words.
How about area of effect?
Oh, that would sound more like it would be an actual term for something.
It is.
When it's not Easter.
And it refers to attacks which will cover a certain area with a damaging effect.
What is it again?
Area of effect.
Area of effect. Okay.
Yep. This is a pretty easy one.
Okay.
Buff.
Like I'm thinking of actual definition. So like buff, like super strong, or buff like buffeting.
But like Jimmy Buffett?
No.
What
like
is buffeting?
Fending off an attack, fending something off. Is it? I don't know. Now I'm second guessing my own
a new
vocabulary.
Term, buffeting. Buffeting? Is that what you're trying to say?
Not buffeting, but it is spelled the same.
Okay.
It's not a Golden Corral thing, though, right?
Yeah, that's not it.
Buff.
A buff is a temporary boost to a player's, enemies, or group of players'
strong, that would be
attributes.
Correct, right?
Okay. You're doing great.
How did you think this was going to go?
Hopefully better than this. Okay. Cheesing.
Cheesing. Smiling for the camera? Cheese catting. Cheese cat.
The category is a nerd.
Cheesing.
You're going with smiling for the camera.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
So cheesing refers to an exploit or a tactic in a game which either avoids or significantly reduces the challenge of certain enemies or situations. So you would cheese your way through an encounter in a game. Pushing a boss off a ledge or something like that. So you don't have to fight it.
Does not make sense to me.
All right. Camping.
Camping, that's when you are like hunkered down somewhere waiting for a thing to happen. Usually it's like you're taking advantage of a spot so you can pick somebody off.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. People camp in first-person shooters all the time. Okay?
You camp at Best Buy.
You can't.
On Black Friday.
FPS.
First person shooter.
Okay, this one could have two meanings.
First player. Trying to think of a word. I can't remember what the name is. I don't know.
Okay, so first person shooter. Mm-hmm. That's one of them. The other one is frames per second.
Frames per second. I should have known that one, I guess.
Frames per second.
Okay.
Yeah. How smooth is the gameplay on your monitor? Ooh, farming.
Farming. I mean, that's basically like you've created kind of a system where you're trying to gain some resource systematically, like amassing it.
Yeah, that's pretty close. The act of gathering valuable items or materials for crafting or in-game progress by repeatedly playing through each area. Each area is rich in those resources. Each area that is rich in those resources. Another word for that is also grinding.
Yep.
Grinding. Let's see. Let's get you another good one here. Griefing.
You know what I think that is. Griefing.
I don't know. Why would I know?
That's the word grief in it.
Sure. Good grief. Charlie Brown.
Griefing. Not grieving.
Grief.
Griefing. I don't know. I don't even, because I feel very sure that it does not mean what I think it means.
Well, what do you think it means?
Like that you are causing angst and making people upset.
That is exactly what it means.
Oh, okay.
Harassing other players.
Oh, okay.
You're griefing them.
Causing people grief.
Causing people grief. Hey, here's another softball. Loot.
Oh, I know that one. Loot. It's like almost, well, I was going to say it's swag, except maybe not necessarily swag because it's not just being handed out, but it's something that drops when it's like a reward and you can pick it up and collect it.
That's true. Yep. That's just as good as anything that they wrote here. NPC.
Non-playable character.
That is correct.
I did not have the correct definition of that term for a long time.
You didn't, but you do now.
I do now.
And so we're very, very, very proud of you. Noob.
Oh, well, that's the person who is green and an idiot at something.
You can be a noob at anything. Yes. As we talk about like the transition between the two realms of nerdy and non-nerdy, noob is definitely making the jump there. Okay. One of the last ones we're going to do here, nerfing.
Nerfing. Nerfing. Is that like killing somebody off repeatedly on purpose and like being a turd about it.
That would be griefing.
I don't know. What's
that would
nerfing?
Be griefing. Nerfing is when something, there's like a buff that things can get, and then they can also get nerfed. A thing can either get buffed
Like
or
downgraded?
Nerfed. Yeah, so Nerf darts,
Yeah.
they're weaker than real bullets, right?
Okay.
And so the idea is that whatever
it's like
the thing
watering
is,
something down.
yeah.
All right.
It's weakened. All right, last one. RNG.
Real nerdy game.
RNG is in a lot of really nerdy games, yeah.
I know I have heard it. I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
RNG, it's an acronym for Random Number Generator. Okay?
Oh.
RNG refers to the weighted elements of chance within a game's design that can significantly impact reward and experience. Okay.
Yeah.
So people
It's
will
like slot machine stuff.
people will often say, "Oh man, I'm really praying to RNGesus." They'll say that in the middle of the game. So because they're hoping
Jesus.
No.
Cheesing. No.
Jesus with a G, RNGesus. And they're hoping that they get their drop, because in games, nothing is, there are a lot of things that are not like 100%. There may be a high drop rate of something, like, hey, this thing has a 70 to 80% drop rate. But even then, you could do that entire encounter and fall in the 20% and have to do it all over again and farm it or grind. So the RNG is the odds that you're actually going to get it. Hey, you didn't do too bad. You got a couple of those right.
A couple.
Hey, that's more than zero, right?
Area of effect.
Yeah.
That was hard.
You'll never forget it as long as you sit here till the end of this episode.
Might talk about orange eggs still. I don't know.
What was the A you said?
All orange eggs,
orange
I think.
eggs.
I
Yep.
don't know.
AOE,
We'll have to go back and watch.
the orange eggs.
Well, okay. So people
How did you do at home? Let us know. At Church Nerds.
Make me feel better about myself, maybe.
At Church Nerds
I don't
LTN, I think
know.
is what we are. Yeah.
People might be wondering why we are talking about any of this. And of course, this episode was inspired by ye old TikTok.
Oh, the TikTok.
I don't know. You sent me this video and you were like, hey, this would be a cool thing to talk about or something. Or maybe I said it would be a cool thing to talk about. It was about how there are many terms and idioms in our language that revolve around like sports.
Yep.
Terms that have become very common that weren't always common. But now they're so much a part of our vernacular that like, oh man, that's a hole in one. We don't really think
you really
about,
knocked it out of the park there.
Yeah, we don't think about like golf and baseball and stuff when we hear those things, but they did originate.
Yeah, not necessarily. Yeah.
Originate out of sports terms. And even like chess has some, like checkmate.
Checkmate.
I don't know any other chess ones. They said check.
You're a pawn.
Oh, pawn. That's right. Yes.
Yep. Which usually means somebody else is controlling you and you're expendable.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's red shirts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Red shirts from Star Trek.
Nerdy thing.
Yep.
Because that is getting more common. The red shirts.
It is.
And so this guy was talking about how it's not that we're moving away from sports terms, but we're starting to see this introduction of like video game terms.
Yeah.
Because the reason that the sports terms made their way into our language the way that they have already is because we tend to find terms that deal with shared experiences.
Yeah, specifically shared cultural experiences, right?
And since baseball is America's pastime, is it still America's pastime?
I think just based on the way that that phrase is worded, it will always be America's pastime.
But a few other sports ones were Winner by a Nose.
Okay. I'll give you
Do you
that
know
one.
what that's from?
Yeah, it's racing.
What kind of racing?
Horse racing?
Yes, horse racing.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
Drop the Ball.
Oof, that could be football.
I think it might be tennis.
Tennis. I mean,
You really drop the ball.
really drop the ball there. I mean, you could drop the ball in a
and,
lot of sports, actually.
Take a rain check is a sports term. I need to look it back up.
What?
Or you can.
Take a rain check.
Mhm.
I thought that was shopping.
Well, it's so it was from baseball in the 1800s. If there was a game that got rained out, they would give you a rain check for the game that was rescheduled. Well, not the rescheduled game, but you could attend a game in the future.
Sure. Okay.
Because you had paid for your ticket.
Yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. Or out of left field.
Yeah.
Another baseball one.
That just came out of left field.
Yeah, totally.
Because nothing ever comes out of left field. Left field is where you put kids to just go hang out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were going to talk a little bit about maybe some other gamer terms that we're starting to hear. You mentioned noob.
Yeah, noob.
Are there other ones that you can think of that have started to really... Well, okay, so like game over.
Game over, man.
Is a lot more video game nerdy than like other sports. They didn't really talk about like game over the way that I think it was that whole like game over on your screen and being like, no.
Yeah, the end. The definite end. Having to go back and start over, like it has legitimate context when used even in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about NPC, and like you may not hear people say you're an NPC kind of a deal.
You hear people talking about other people as being an NPC.
Dude's an NPC. And also on things like even just as recently as earlier this year, there was a massive craze around NPC live streams on TikTok and Instagram.
Weird.
And I mean,
I watched one for a few minutes and was like, this is not my scene, I guess. I don't know.
That literally made me stop watching lives on, short form content websites.
Yeah.
TikTok and Instagram. And so, but that was one of the things that was just so popular. So this idea, this NPC came into the mainstream through these platforms that are not just gamer centric. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that was really wild. He mentioned in his video here, where we dropping, like he's heard people say that out loud. It's not necessarily just a Fortnite term, but it's like a battle royale term, where you have a flyover thing
dropped somewhere on the map.
You choose a spot on the map and you drop out of the thing. Call of Duty has it with Warzone and all sorts of stuff. So where we drop in is what you would actually say in the game to be like, hey, where are we going? And so people bringing that out of the video game space and into real life, it's because that is their shared cultural experience.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting in this whole thing is that even now, well, I say even now, probably like for as long as I've been on this earth, which is, just shy of 40 years now. You're getting old, dude.
I mean, you're older.
I've heard more people probably in the last 15 years or so when I use a sports term. Okay. I'm not just some unsportsed nerd. All right. I'm also not a jock of all trades. Okay?
A jock of all trades.
There are a certain number of things that I do that are sports related or have been sports related in the past. I've ran Spartan races and we've done other, races like that, like Tough Mudder and Warrior Dash and stuff like that.
I just want to clarify.
You were there.
I was there and I felt like I had participated in the event because I think I was
pregnant.
8 months pregnant.
Very pregnant.
I was very pregnant. And I thought that I might end up in the hospital that day just by showing up to spectate. And I am not joking.
No.
That's not a joke.
Well, you almost did. And I didn't know that because I was just running.
It was very horrible.
But even when I've used sports terms, I've had to like explain to people. They're like, "Oh, well, I'm just not a sports person." I'm like, "But you
maybe
know,
you're doing it wrong. Maybe you're saying it wrong.
Oh, I say, you want to go have a catch?
Go have a catch?
I don't say that. That's just being silly. But like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's I assumed, excuse me, I assumed that it was a wide enough used and known term that you could just use it with anybody at any point. But that is not the case. There are still a large swath of people that don't get, understand, identify, or actively resist sports metaphors.
People actively resist sports metaphors?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know
why
several of them. But so I just...
What kind of people?
I'm not at liberty to discuss, but thank you for trying to draw that out live on air. But anyway, so anyway, what I have to do is I have to do a little bit of what's known as code switching. Okay. So code switching, for those of you that are unfamiliar, gets a pretty bad rap, but it gets a pretty bad rap because people code switch
manipulatively.
I can't say that word.
Yeah,
manipulatively, or in an inauthentic kind of a way.
Okay.
Right. And the way I was talking to you about it earlier was like, hello, fellow students. It's the old guy with the skateboard over his back. Hey there, fellow youths. I'm hip. I'm cool. Like you're cool. I'm going to say the words that you say. But we have talked about, not just in nerd culture, but in other cultures, that people can smell if you're disingenuous. I mean, they can understand that. They know when you do or don't really belong to the same group that they do.
Yeah.
And so that just got me thinking, right? Like we're talking about these shared cultural experiences and how it is. This is not my interpretation of situations. This is just the way that things are going. If you don't believe me, talk to somebody who is outside of your generation, whether you're a boomer all the way down to millennial, it doesn't matter. Talk to somebody who is younger than you are. And I can almost guarantee you, if you're talking to a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha, they're using a Fortnite term to explain something to you. My kids are going around, yes, Anna's face right now. My kids are going around right now. Again, mine are 12 all the way down to 3. The 3-year-old doesn't know what he's talking about, but like 12, we'll say
right
12,
and left.
12 to 8.
He knows that.
Well, dinosaurs and fish. 12 to 8. Okay, in our house.
Any Force?
Oh yeah, Super Dino Power. And so
Hot Wheels.
Within the 12 to 8-year-old range in our house, these are our Gen Alphas. Okay. Mm-hmm. What we're seeing is that they are only ever talking about Fortnite. So much so that even when Fortnite drops something new, heavy air quotes on new. For instance, they dropped something from Eminem. Okay. Like a couple of seasons ago. Not the candy, the rapper. All right. So for some of you, that might be a distinction that needs to be made. And so they're going around singing Slim Shady, the real Slim Shady. Okay. And not knowing what they're singing, but it's an emote in Fortnite.
Yeah.
And so it is culturally relevant to them. They're doing the gritty. They're doing what's that thing where they're like skating on air, the hatchback or the halfback or something like that. I'm not super cool and I'm not pretending to be.
I don't know.
But Fortnite is influencing culture in a massive kind of way. So if you are a parent or a youth leader or anybody young that you are accountably influenceable over, you should familiarize yourself with what's going on inside of games like Fortnite and Roblox and these popular titles, because it is literally what's driving the way that they talk. Caleb, our 12-year-old, what is he saying?
Nyet.
Nyet.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And he says it for everything. And I'm like, dude, hey, I love you. You got to stop nyetting me.
Yeah.
I'll take bruv, bro. I'll take that. Give me that back all day long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Bro. I mean, yeah, bro.
Hey, Caleb, I need you to do the dishes. Can you do that? Yeah. Did yes or was that a no? Yeah.
Well, it's like almost like just kidding or something, or when he thinks he's cute or funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't fully understand what it is.
So as a parent, like I think about my mom sometimes, how I know some of the stuff we did and said got on her nerves. I just feel like there's no way possible. Like she had to have been super patient. I don't remember her constantly being like, stop. But that's how I feel a lot
all the time with our
my kids where I'm like,
time.
show forbearance. Nope, I cannot do it. One more time. Stop saying that.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not very patient.
Well, so it got me thinking that like language is moving.
Watch your language.
Yeah. Language is moving and or progressing, regressing, however you want to say it. It is in a state of movement, a constant state of movement.
Sure.
At a more rapid rate than I think we're used to right now because of the advent of technology and communication and all sorts of stuff. Like things are just changing more frequently than they had been.
Yeah. And I get to where I think I feel this way about fashion as well. You kind of realize that parents that you made fun of when you were a kid for being like stuck in a different decade.
Yep.
It's like I don't know if they felt like I feel, where I'm like, sometimes I just feel like I couldn't possibly keep up if I wanted to.
Can't do it.
So why even bother anymore?
Can't do it.
I can't. And I found a style that works for me. And so that lady who wore the winged bang hairstyle
Forever.
way longer than everybody else was doing it, and I thought it was so strange. I am sorry. She just found a thing that she really thought worked for her, and you know what? Go her. Why was I so judgmental? I don't know.
Yeah.
Here I am, like making excuses for myself to have kind of a, for lack of a better term, like a boomer mindset where it's like, I don't need to change. You need to change. You come to me. You come to me.
Sure.
I need to not be like that. I guess the question for me, I'm not asking you to answer this because once again, if you have never been a part of this podcast before, we don't answer a lot of questions, but we ask a bunch of them.
Tons of them.
How do I still stay relevant and communicate and show somebody that I care without having to learn every single thing? Because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
There's so much of it. There's Fortnite and there's all this. It used to be TikTok and apparently it's not TikTok anymore.
TikTok's out?
Yeah, that's what. Am I telling you this? Because they've been telling me this. TikTok is done.
Who's they?
All of the people speaking for teenagers.
Oh, okay. Got it.
On behalf of them, that they kind of like vacillate between Instagram and something else as far as social networks that are involved.
Interesting.
Because TikTok, older people, probably our generation, found it and they're like, ugh, it's just old people here now.
Hey, sorry. We like cool things too.
I know. And I think when you're talking about like the emotes and all that stuff and singing Eminem songs, I'm like, oh, I really want my kids singing Eminem songs. I feel kind of the same way about that as like when girls were learning a bunch of dances to songs that it's like, oh man, if you only knew all of the lyrics to that song,
or any of them.
I don't know if you would be dancing it with your kid on TikTok or whatever.
Well, so like all that being said, like culture, that's really the heart of this topic, right? Is that culture is changing rapidly. And so it got me thinking months ago when we started talking about this topic.
It's been a minute.
Months ago. Are we as Christians, those of us who are Christians, that if you're not, enjoy this peek behind the curtain, just as I verbally process some of these things, right? Are we as Christians doing the same thing, but like in a negative way? Like, are we saying, hey, culture is changing around us, the way we're using terminology, the way that all this stuff is progressing and whatever, it's changing around us, but we are stick in the mud. To put it into biblical standards, we are a tree planted by the water, we shall not be moved, right? Everything else will move around us. We are not moving, which I think, to some extent, that's perfect. Nailed it. We were supposed to in some ways, but is it every way? Is it every way that we are supposed to just plant and go, nope?
Yeah, I mean, it's
and then
really...
we get mad at people. I'm sorry, I had an extra thought, and I apologize.
Keep going.
Because we as Christians, and we I almost said and something. Forget the and. We as Christians, we do something where like we will then demean other people if they're not on the same brainwave as we are.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of well, you're a noob. Like,
yeah,
I'm just so much more learned than you because I know.
As
this
Kanye
thing.
would say, only halfway read Ephesians.
Okay.
That was in one of his songs.
Well, I mean, any group that you walk into has so much language that you have to learn.
Mm.
And even certain terms, I used to be really annoyed when I was doing things on the internet. I would go into a new group, and especially if it's an online kind of space where you're
Familiar?
mostly using some sort of a text like communication form.
Yeah.
Then you have certain terms that you use a lot and that become very cumbersome to type out. And so they start like using acronyms or whatever. But then you go to a different group and you have to learn a whole new set of acronyms, or they might use the same acronyms, but they mean completely different things. And I was like, this is really hard. But it just is a part, as frustrating as it is.
Sure.
It is a part of walking into a new place. There is a learning curve, and that is never going to stop.
Sure.
That is never going to stop. I think your question is like, I guess, how do we ease that and make it not like prevent it from being a barrier?
That's the word.
And like not make people feel like idiots.
That's the word.
They're gonna feel like idiots. Not try to hold their hand through that feeling instead of just making them feel the full weight of it.
So a lot of what we do here with Love Thy Nerd and just with our relational evangelistic approach, even that word, evangelism, right? Evangelicals, like it is just, I'm using word. It's getting crucified, right? Like,
you're just full of these fun words today.
Add it to the list. But like those things are getting, those words are actually getting like lambasted right now because of what they have entailed for a while or seem to entail based on a certain sect of people or an idea or an event or something like that. But what we at LTN try to do with our like relationally evangelical approach is to kind of make the message fit the person or the persons or the group or the demographic or whatever that we're actually trying to be a part of, rather than coming in and using that barrier analogy, right? That term, that understanding, rather than coming in and creating a less approachable version of Jesus.
Well,
right?
So when you brought up code switching, I think as with many things that we talk about, there's so much nuance in that. It's like, code switching can't be so much your way of doing things that you, not forget who you are, but
Sure.
like that you have no almost integrity. You are just this shifting like sand kind of thing where it's like, who is that person? I don't know. Like, we've been around people like that it was like you couldn't really get a handle on who they were as a person because they were so busy trying to impress you or cater to you that it was like, I am tired of you telling me what I want to hear. I just want to know you. So all the time, like there can be too much of it. But on the other hand, if you're like, nope, I am who I am, no matter where I am. And I say what I want to, I mean what I say and I say what I mean. And I say everything on my mind, that kind of thing. Like we've seen that also be super detrimental. I mean,
hurtful.
Lots of church people do that. Well, this is what the Bible says. And so I'm just going to say, like, I can't, I'm not ashamed.
Well, I'm ashamed.
I'm not asking you
I'm
to
ashamed
be
of what you just said.
ashamed of the gospel, but it's like, do you want to lead with that thing? And it's hard because Jesus led with some really crazy stuff about like eating his body and drinking his blood one time that was like, whoa, man, like that.
Shut down almost an entire movement overnight. It did.
So, but I mean, I don't know, like it is hard to find the balance. I think that the church has tried to do it.
Yeah.
One example I was talking to you about before we really started recording was the terms fellowship and life group or doing life together. I was like, you know how I know somebody has been in the church for a while, but especially in the last 15 years, is they'll be like, oh man, I love doing life with you. They do life
together.
And I'm like, I love doing life with you too. This sounds so churchy to me right now because I've never met a person outside of church who's like, I just love doing life with you. It's like, I love hanging out with you. I love being your friends.
Yeah.
I feel like you're my people.
Yeah.
I don't know if the term even maybe community, is community a super churchy term? I use it a lot, but I'm not sure if that one goes actually into even more secular spaces.
I think people are a part of communities. I don't know that they necessarily talk about being in
like
community.
Your community, like your town versus my like group of close-knit people who are going to be here for me versus my
if you have, please let us know.
Community. I'm going to a community to live in where we pour all of our money in the same pot, etc.
I don't know. I think that I think you're right. And I think that we've done a lot of those things, but again, I think it comes down, like you were talking about earlier, to this idea of like how genuine is what you're doing. Because if you're just code switching, just to code switch, or if you are even using these words and this terminology as a way to compartmentalize and differentiate and create barriers, like I think both of those things are equally as hurtful.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that sometimes it's so necessary. I think a really classic example of this is I hope someone from our church is watching this.
I'll watch it.
So we have several pastors on staff. One of our senior pastor he's got his doctorate and he is real like smart and he loves words and he loves a lot of words. And Caleb, our oldest son, has a hard time connecting with him. Because I don't know if it's just that so much of it goes over his head.
In very specific scenarios though, like on a Sunday morning during preaching time, yes, he has a hard time.
Yes.
Any time out of that?
Speaking style. Where another one of our pastors on staff, who he was a student pastor when he originally came on staff, super used to teaching teenagers. And so he'll get up there and they both tell stories, but it's just something about the way.
Yeah. Cadence and delivery.
That the other tells a story and maybe might talk about like just being a stinky teenage boy or like whatever that can really unlock communicating with our 12-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And so in a certain sense, it's like code switching is a necessary part of communication.
Has to be.
Because if it's always, you're just not going to reach people.
Yeah.
If you are so locked into this one way of doing things that, yeah, you're not.
You have to be fluid. You have to be like nimble, right? You have to be, malleable in some way, shape, or form. But I do think you were talking earlier about like the negative side of that. And we see that in scripture where, Peter is confronted by Paul. And he's like, hey, dude, we were just like here hanging out with the Gentiles and everything was cool and it was fine. But now you don't want to hang out with them anymore. They're not your people. It's not cool anymore because the Jews are here now. That's not cool, man. Like we can't do that. And so I think I would really love to have the book of the Gentiles that speaks about that moment. Like, dude, I thought Peter was our guy. He was really cool. Had a lot of fun. And then like these old dudes came around and he just like changed, man. Like it was weird. Like, I think that's how the secular, culture and community, I think that's how they see us as Christians sometimes, is that sometimes when we're out and about Monday through Saturday, we're one way, and then we get in the church on a Sunday and it's like, well, you're different and not in a good way. It's not something different about you. What is that? Is that Jesus? It's like, whoa, dude, like what? Yesterday,
you were cussing out a coach at a football game.
So different. And now you're, hey man, like, what are we doing? And so we get into these situations where people will literally say out loud to us as Christians, hey, you're not any different than me any other day of the week. What's the point of me becoming Christian?
Right.
And so we kind of lose that part of our witness to go, because obviously you should just come to church more. You'll get it. You'll understand. But I think that's why, with Love Thy Nerd, we talk about not necessarily taking that off. And I fail. Anybody who's listening or watching this and is like, hey, Bubba, actually, yesterday you ... XYZ. Yeah, I fail miserably at this a ton.
What did you ... XYZ?
Bring any of our kids in. I'm sure that they could tell you. I hung a microwave.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, that's not in the Bible.
Good job.
But
without the mounting kit.
Without the mounting, that's all another story for all the time. But I do think that we kind of get into these scenarios and these situations where we're not actively living in a way that would be, becoming to Jesus and what he has called us to be. But then we turn around and we try to put all these delineating factors. And so when I was thinking about like words and the etymology and how culture is growing and it's moving into a more like gamer centric, not even space, but just like way that we talk. Because way back when, it wasn't that everybody played sports. It's just nobody is ever going to do all of the things. That's too superlative of a statement.
Everybody isn't going to do one
always
thing.
And always and never, everybody, nobody, all these things. That's not it. It's all gray area. But what's really interesting is that the way that we use the word Christianese, right? Okay. But even the term that we use, that's not Christianese, we churchified that. The term and the phrase that we use about the words that we use or any other organization or group uses is called insider baseball. Like, hey, this is a little bit of insider baseball. Words that we use is this. We have our own signals, our own signs, our own everything. Like, even that's a sports term. I wonder what that's going to be like in 10 years if we're still going to use the word insider baseball, or if it's going to be schematic or something like that. Hey, these are the blueprints, which you would think would mean for a building, but it actually means for crafting in video games. Like the way that the verbiage and stuff is moving forward. So I think that it's important for us. How do I form this into a question? What could we do, right?
You're doing great.
What could we do as humans, people, adults, doesn't matter what your age range is. What could we do to better understand and communicate with not just the emergent generation, not just the generations that are coming, but the generations that are actually here right now? And that means that we're going to have to do things different ourselves. In the same way, we wouldn't want a language barrier to keep us from sharing the gospel or building a relationship with somebody who we needed to do that with. You wouldn't go to Nicaragua and not learn Spanish. You would not do that. Okay? That would be a bad idea to just sit around and go, I guess I'll just wait for everybody to learn English. Right? And then it would be good. Because if I, who have the knowledge of the saving power and grace of Jesus Christ, cannot communicate that with the people that I'm trying to talk to, how is that any different than me going to a foreign, a foreign land, foreign country, and trying to share that with them in a language that they don't understand? Doesn't matter how Christian I am, right? We can get into tongues and all that stuff, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just like bread and butter, meat and potatoes, every day, sharing the gospel and living it out with people. If you cannot communicate that with them, then you lose it. So the whole basis of this entire, conversation from my standpoint, when I brought this up, was how do we as the church not do the things that the church is really good at, which is being 10 to 15 to 20 years behind, but how do we meet culture in the space where it is without compromising morals and theology and all sorts of other things that you are having questions about right now, listener and or viewer and or wife, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying how do we morph into something that is more appeasing, but how do we meet culture in the spaces where they already find themselves, right? So anyway, we don't answer these questions. We just ask them. And I think if you need some steps in the right direction, just find the things that the people in your space are talking about and learn about those things. Fortnite is a really easy way because it is, like I promise you, it is driving a lot. Our high school team here locally, state champs.
Yep.
In Fortnite.
Sure are.
Ask me how many other state champs we had this year at our high school. Rhymes with 0. Okay. It was just them. And so I'm already starting to have conversations locally about what does that mean for the state of like nerd culture and video games and all sorts of stuff within the context of our area. And those conversations are happening very fast, where I've been cooking in it for over a decade now. Mm-hmm. They're like, how do we do it? Well, here's what we could do. And so it's a really exciting time. But I will say this, if you have any questions, hit us up at Love Thy Nerd on all social media platforms, or go to lovethynerd.com, or you can send me an email, bubba@lovethynerd.com. If you are a Luddite and you don't know how to do anything but email, I'd love to talk to you over that.
A what?
A Luddite. You can Google that later. I can't teach you everything, okay?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there it is.
Hey, Anna.
Yes.
What do you want to do first? Nerdy recommendation? We got a nerdy recommendation.
We always do nerdy recommendation.
We have a nerdy recommendation. Okay. My computer fell asleep.
We're going to say it at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Code names.
Just kidding. We didn't have to say it at the same time. That was dumb.
I'm glad that's what you wanted to say. Hey, our nerdy recommendation for today is a tabletop game called Codenames by CGE, Czech Games Edition. And it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It is word association.
Yes.
It is team-based.
Yes.
You can play it online for free. We'll have the link in the description. Or you can go to, almost anywhere and buy it.
Yes. It's very, very easy to pick up at Target or all kinds of different places.
Yeah.
And man, that one is one that, I mean, you're either going to do real well with your teammates because you think on the same level, or you are going to do terrible. Not because either of you are dumb, but you just think different.
Yeah. Well, and so we've played with like a fairly large group. So maybe like a team of 5 or something like that. Right. And basically what you're trying to do is you have a grid that's out in front of you that has these cards that have
random words.
On it, just think of random like nouns.
Nouns, yes, okay? Nouns.
And then you, as the code master for your team, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get people to guess as many of those words using one single word as you possibly can. Because the whole point
one word that's going to loop as many of the ones you're trying to get them to guess at the same time, while simultaneously not saying certain other words.
Yes, you're trying to avoid other words.
Yeah.
There are they're called spies. Civilians, which are
There's
just like
the other team, and then there's the neutral words, and then there's one that'll get you dead.
Yeah.
So
I think that's called the spy.
The assassin.
Assassin. Yeah. If you guess, if they say that's the word he's talking about or she's talking about, you're out of here. It's a fantastic game. It comes in 1 billion different varieties.
But I'm just gonna say this: get the base normal one.
But here's the deal. I'm going to caveat her caveat and say this:
because
if you have smaller children, okay, there is Codenames Pictures.
I think it's so much harder. It's way harder. There's a Disney one.
There's Disney. There's Harry Potter. There's Marvel. Like it's a pretty highly licensed game.
Yes.
And so you can play within the world that you want to, or you can just get Codenames Vanilla.
That's what it's called. Codenames Vanilla.
It's not vanilla, but
some of the words we use come from food.
Yep.
Ice cream.
If somebody ever mentions a game being vanilla, they just mean base, like the basic, the original.
Because some people don't enjoy vanilla ice cream as much as other kinds of ice cream.
This guy right
I don't
here.
know why. Vanilla is awesome.
I could go. It is very sweaty in here. I could go for a lot of ice cream right now.
Ooh, yeah.
Hey, we're about to be done. Don't worry about it. Speaking of being done, Anna, we have a Church Nerds
memory verse.
Yeah.
Memory verses. Several. Okay. This is actually from 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 9:19 through 22. Though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews, I became a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law, I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law, though I'm not free from God's law, but I'm under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak, I became weak to win the weak. I've become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some.
Well said, Paul.
Code switching?
Code switching.
A little bit.
Code switching for sure. And so, hey, take this, do with it what you will. Again, if you have any questions, please do us a favor. Hit us up online at Love Thy Nerd on all major platforms. You can also send me an email, bubba@lovethynerd. Would love to respond to that and have some correspondence with you. We can set up a one-on-one time to talk about it, or we can sit down and talk about stuff with a group of people if that's what you'd like to do.
PvP.
Not PvP. We're not going to be verse each other.
Oh.
The V is verses. PWP. People with people.
I'm trying to use the words I was learning. I know what PvP means.
PvE is player versus environment. And so that is
not
usually
everyone. Player versus everyone. Everybody against one.
No, that's wrong. But anyway, hey, this is going to do it for this episode and for this season of Church Nerds. We will be back in August.
Will we?
We will be back in August. Okay.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, great job. And so I don't know when, early August sometime, but we'll be back with a bunch of great new episodes. If there's anything that you would like for us to cover, please use one of those communication platforms I mentioned earlier. Let us know. If not, we're going to get out of here. But if no one else tells you this, just remember it's true. Jesus loves you, nerd.
Here we go!
What's up, nerds? My name's Bubba.
My name's Anna.
And you're watching and or listening to Church Nerds. And we are an LTN Podcast Network member. And we are so happy and proud to be here. Thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day, or maybe multiple times out of multiple days. I'm not really sure how people actually consume podcasts. Sometimes I consume them like that.
I mean, it's not up to us. You can do how you want to.
Yeah, but just do it the way we want.
No rules.
Just Jesus.
I wasn't gonna say it.
There's a church in our town that's their slogan. It's on a big, I almost said billboard. It's not really a billboard. It's just like a.
It's big enough to be a talking point in our town.
Yeah.
So you know. Anyway, my name is Anna. Mm-hmm. I'll introduce myself first, but it feels backwards and wrong. I'm Anna.
I'll allow it.
I am not the CEO and president
of
Love Thy Nerd or a founder. I am just me. I am married to someone who is all of those things, which is you.
Whoa, all of those things.
Is that not what you're going with anymore? I can't keep track.
No, I am. I've never been introduced like that. And
well, you're welcome. That's probably the best This is not good. This is not good talking that I'm doing today. Why? Enough about me. This, if you are watching along with us, is Tom Nook.
The crook.
Yes. You got this for me.
I did.
When you were away on your latest and very, very long trip.
Yes.
And it still has the tags on it because the jury's out. I don't know if I'm going to keep him.
I got it at a flea market. You can't take it back.
Well,
I got it at the Peddler's Mall in New Albany, Indiana. And
still original tags, even at the flea market.
This thing was $10.
I know. I can see that.
I saw it and I was
actually $9.95.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that.
Anyway, Tom Nook, I feel like I need to fix his nose. This is a legit Animal Crossing thing. Except his nose feels like the wrong shape. It just feels like this little thing needs to be tacked down just like that.
Or it needs to be filled out. Like
this doesn't need to be this pointy. They need to sew that just like that. Anyway, this is not the sewing podcast.
Not yet anyway.
This is the Church Nerds podcast. It was a busy week for us.
It was a busy week.
It was a different paced kind of week because this week for our school district, was spring break. The most wonderful time of the year.
False.
Said no parent ever.
Yeah,
well, unless they
parent.
were a teacher, in which they were living it up this week.
Yeah.
They were loving it. One of my teacher friends said she was doing all of the granny things that are her favorite things.
Oh.
Which were gardening, reading books, cooking, cleaning, and raising her chickens.
Those are all her favorite things?
Yes. Yes, they are.
We need to send her a Nintendo.
No, I don't think she wants that. I think she's happy. Anyway, so I did not have spring break. I still had a job. And you also tried to have a job, but were less successful at it, probably because 3 of 4 of our children were home with you. And their job this week was playing Fortnite.
Yeah, most of them. It got down to 2 of 4 of them. Their job was to play Fortnite. Anna is a little under the weather.
You can hear it a little bit in my throat, a little bit froggy, a little squeaky, and I did take a sick day. Kind of. I took a don't go into the office day, but still work.
Stay home and be annoyed.
Longer hours than you do at the office day.
Don't work as much.
I worked more. I just didn't answer phones.
I really appreciated the fact that I asked you like what was going on, saw the look on your face. You managed to, for whatever reason, set up shop in the kitchen, at the kitchen table.
Didn't have any other places to do it.
Terrible idea.
Have you seen my workspace in this house lately?
I'm just saying it was a bad idea.
Okay.
But
unless you wanted me in here with you.
I thought you were going to come and sit right here on this couch.
It would have been nice. But here's the thing, is that when we both hole up in the same room, all of the kids are unmonitored out there
how they are.
And even the smallest one was home that day. And he does like to open the gate and run into the street.
Well, we have a very high-tech security system.
It is a carabiner that sometimes we forget to put on. And I just wanted to sit in a place where I could be looking at the door.
So you did have that vantage point.
Yes.
And still somehow managed to miss him standing out in the road.
No, that was a different day.
That was a different day?
That was a different day.
Oh.
That was why I sat where I sat.
It was a very eventful weekend, and all of the stuff is blurring together for me.
Yes, he stood in the middle of a street in front of a car.
Imagine a 3-year-old.
Like he was stopping it.
A tiny 3-year-old.
Okay.
2.5 foot tall 3-year-old.
And that is what keeps me awake at night, some nights.
He also built a dam.
Anyway, he did.
Or a little retaining wall, as it were.
Several rocks in a row because our road is not paved. I'm shattering illusions for everyone right now. We do not live in a fancy neighborhood at all. We live on a barely paved. They just poured some rocks over it.
It's paved underneath.
It was paved.
Yeah.
It got very dilapidated and they were like, we don't really want to put the money into paving this again. We're just going to pour rocks over it.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Hey.
Several times.
Yeah. And they're really good at doing that.
It's probably about time for them to do it again.
So anyway, you hold up out here.
Yes.
You hold up out here, and I walked by, saw the look on your face, and you had the audacity to tell me it is very difficult to get work done.
I know.
At the house. And I was like, oh, please tell me more.
No, you asked me about it. And I just said, it's just hard to do work here. And I wasn't saying.
You did not say it like that.
I wasn't saying that I thought I was telling you anything earth shattering that you did not already know, because I'm very aware. You think I don't know this, but I do. I do know this.
Yeah.
I do know it. So anyway. Yes, 3 of 4 children were home with you while you tried to work. I think you did end up working.
A little bit.
But not only was it spring break, there were a couple of big deal holidays this week in Nerd World. Which were Mario Day, March 10th, and Pi Day. Is it our birthday this week?
No, it's almost our anniversary.
It is.
Yeah, I remember that today.
So we did some celebrating.
We did. We celebrated both of those things.
So I just thought we would talk about all of the ways that we celebrate these big deal holidays, which is...
It's going to be a short conversation.
Yeah, not very well. About like we do anything else. We're not actually very good planners at all.
You did come up to me on March the 10th, which is Mario Day.
Fairly early in the day.
And said, hey, we should do something. And I think you initially said a Mario Kart tournament.
I did originally say a Mario Kart tournament, and you said, or we could play Mario Party. And I said, yes, or we could play Mario Party. And we did. We played it, and nobody even had a fight.
I was very surprised.
We did have a big, serious moment with all of our kids, and we're like, hey, anybody can win this thing. It doesn't make you a bad player most of the time. There are a couple mini games that were kind of frustrating because it seemed like some people didn't quite get it. But
yeah.
I'm thinking of one. It's the one where the two of you, it's like a 2v2, and you're connected by a string, and you have to try to thread your string in such a configuration. And Bubba was on Levi's team. I don't know what he was doing. He struggled.
It has the thing. I'm watching the time. We don't have a lot of time. It has the image of what you're supposed to be doing in the middle of the thing.
You're looking right at it.
He was just guessing.
And we would be like, no, stand right here. Don't move. Don't move. Just stand right there.
So naturally,
he couldn't do it.
He'd loop around one of the pegs.
Anyway, okay, so we did that.
We did that, and
Naomi won.
She was
handily.
She was getting stomped.
Yep, and as is typical in Mario Party, she came back and won. Well, she was the dark horse, you know.
Which is why you should probably never.
She wasn't the dark horse though, because Levi rolled
Oh my gosh, he wrote
so many ones in a row. And it just became the running joke.
He got lapped by Naomi, who rolled a 0.
And when he didn't get a 1, when he got ones, we all laughed so hard. And when he got a 6, we all cheered.
We cheered.
So it was fun. Then for Pi Day, this is how it works. At about 8:45 in the evening, I said, was it that late? Maybe it wasn't that late. Hey, you know what day? It was 7 something.
It was 7.
Hey, it's Pi Day. What a waste of Pi Day. We didn't even eat pie. And you said, no, we didn't. And I said, we could get pie at HEB. And you said, yes, we could. And you did.
And then I went and got 2 pies. I got an apple pie and a cherry pie.
Only in my mind, the pies you were going to bring home were from the bakery section and were ready to eat.
Listen.
But in fact,
the
pies that you brought...
I bought frozen pies.
You brought 2 Marie Calendar pies
I didn't know.
They took like an hour to cook.
It did. And so we didn't eat pie until 10:30.
And while we were waiting for pie, Naomi watched parts of the Taylor Swift concert.
Most all of it, yeah.
Until I came out and was like, nope, not that song. Nope, we don't say that.
Yeah, we're not like super duper prudish, but we did have a conversation with her and we said, hey, Nene, some of Taylor's stuff is just not appropriate for a 9-year-old girl.
Yeah,
and she goes, you're right.
Yeah. So generally it's like, if there are 3 swear words in the first 30 seconds, we'll just fast forward that one.
Yeah. And we did.
Or
so it was,
people dancing suggestively with chairs.
But dang, she was counting down. Like she saw that it was on Disney Plus and she was counting.
It's coming out at 6. Am I watching this thing today? 3 hours long.
Yeah, she loved it.
Wowie, wow.
She loved it. We got a little Swiftie.
That Taylor, she's getting it done.
A little swifter.
She said, this was hilarious. I was talking to Julian because Julian and I, while we do not live in the same area, we still keep up by cooking dinner at the same time and FaceTiming some days.
Yeah.
You know, just normal stuff.
Yeah.
Because we like to share the most mundane parts of our lives, apparently. So
that's true friendship.
It is. And we have been doing this for years.
Some of my best times with Matt are just like when we're in a car driving and not talking to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. We weren't FaceTiming, but as I've mentioned before, like during the pandemic, the only way we could see each other was to go to HEB at the same time because there were no rules about that.
Nope. Just Jesus.
That wasn't a gathering. It was just grocery shopping.
Yep.
And so we did. For every week that we were on weird lockdown rules, we just went to HEB at the exact same time, made appointments.
Yeah.
So
hang out with your friends.
Yeah. Anyway, Naomi is coming up to me and being like, am I watching Taylor Swift while I'm on the phone with Julian? Wait, why was I talking about this?
This is a fantastic question. I have no idea. What did Julian say?
Well,
she knew a lot about Taylor Swift. I can tell you that. More than I expected her to.
I don't even know if this is going to be appropriate. And Taylor Swift, of all of the people you could be following, and we have a lot of Swifties in the Love Thy Nerd community.
A lot of
There's
people.
There's a lot of Swifties in the entire world because everyone loves Taylor Swift.
Yeah, apparently she sells out shows everywhere she goes. That rhymed.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm the real Taylor Swift now.
Maybe so.
Maybe my song is a slamming screen door.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can't remember where I was going. My thought left my brain.
You were talking to Julian about Taylor Swift. Nene came up.
Yeah. Well, she was like, I mean, Taylor Swift's not the worst person that our children could have as a role model.
No.
And I was like, that's true. But, you know, there are still a few things that I was like, well, we're going to wait.
Yeah. Regardless of where you're going with
that song.
Regardless of where you're going with that story, it was an okay show. Like it was more than okay. Like it's like she does work. Like she really does work.
Yes,
we were talking about, does she actually sing all the songs? Is like while she's dancing, is her mic live the whole time?
Because some people have said that she is the actual GOAT,
and
surpassed Michael Jackson,
Sir Michael Jackson, yeah,
as the king of pop.
She's the queen of pop.
And I mean,
maybe,
I don't know. But they were saying that under, like, based on her writing all her own stuff, performing all of her
multiple
own
times,
stuff
by the way,
live, which she is not the only writer of her songs. She has an entire team. She helps with writing all of her songs. And there was definitely a line where her microphone was all the way down and a full line of a song sang. And I was like, oh, well, that didn't seem live. I don't think her mouth was moving.
She's a ventriloquist.
But she does have also all of her backup singers. And maybe one of them sounds a lot like her.
I don't know. There were like 5.
Anyway.
What's this episode about? Taylor Swift?
Pi Day and Taylor Swift Day.
Got it.
And spring break and just general goings on in our home. So
moral of the story,
welcome.
When your wife sends you to go buy pies at 7:30 p.m., you don't buy frozen pies.
Don't get the frozen ones.
But if you do,
the ready-made.
Your daughter will be able to finish the Taylor Swift concert on Disney Plus. So there's an upside.
Yes.
Silver lining.
Yes.
Hey, speaking of Disney Plus and Taylor Swift, we're talking about something completely different.
Yes.
In the actual meat of this podcast. And you and I got to talking a little bit about this the other day. And it was this concept of like the state of arcades and like what that is. And you can think like Dave and Buster's. You can think, we have this place up the street called Mr. Gaddy's. We're going to even go back into our past and talk about some of the things that we had. But the interesting thing is nowadays, how old did that just sound? But in 2024, you cannot hardly go to an arcade without it being a ticket-based system.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
Right. I mean, like, and I didn't go to arcades when I was younger. But like, I think about like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Wreck-It Ralph arcade, where it's just a place with machines, and the whole thing is based on getting all of your quarters, and you show up, and the thing that you do is you enjoy playing that game and maybe become the best person at that game. And like the ultimate payoff of that is everybody in the arcade sitting there and watching you and being like, yeah, or oh, when you lose.
Yeah.
Like that is all you get.
Yeah.
That's all you get. So in our area, there's a place that has an arcade in it, but it's also like mini golf and go-karts, axe throwing for a while, but I think that isn't a thing anymore. I don't know.
Is it not?
Probably liability nightmare, if I had to guess. I'm not really sure.
I wanted to do
roller
that.
skating, bowling, all the things. A restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's all. I think that's all that's there. Very popular birthday party space. It is very loud. I don't think there is a smidge of insulation in the entire building.
Why?
Yeah. So some friends of ours had a birthday party there. Mini golf with a 3-year-old is quite an experience. But
no, thank you.
Our kids do love the arcade there. And it's like one of those cards. You get so many dollars on your card if you're part of a birthday party.
Yeah.
And you get to go spend all your little dollars at the arcade, and it tracks your tickets that you earn on your card, and you go and redeem it for whatever garbage they have at that counter. And our kids have different strategies. Like, first of all, this is all a nightmare for me.
100%.
It is so loud, and our kids are running around like ants everywhere. And of course, this birthday party is while you're gone. Because similarly to this podcast needing to be recorded as a beacon for sickness, if you leave town, everybody schedules a thing. And I have an extra animal to watch.
Yeah, I think
that's just how it goes. And it's been that way for years.
You may be the only person in the world that doesn't have access to my calendar because it feels like everybody else does. Like, oh, Bubba's out. Schedule.
Let's have a birthday party. Let's have a big church event. Let's have all of your family members need to be volunteering today. It's just crazy. So I'm solo parenting it. All of the kids are everywhere. And then the arcade is going on. And not only this, do we have this birthday party, but also another friend's party. That's a really important party because, it's not that some people's parties aren't important, but this is like some friends of ours who are having a baby and it's like, it's a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. I thought they
and
were
I'm
both
like,
the same spot.
I need to make it to this other place. So we have to get out by this time.
Yes.
But where do we get stuck? The dang it ticket counter. Because they got to get their lollipops and weird sticky things and Nerf guns that don't work. And
they're not supposed to work.
Like the thing that it just drives me crazy that we can't just go and have fun while we're playing. We have to have like all of that stuff breaks in the car on the way home.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they still all fight about it. I would rather they just all have candy. Maybe. I don't know. But they definitely have different strategies.
Yeah.
Like Levi, he wants to play a game, that's fun. Caleb, he's like those old people who go to Vegas and play slot machines. He goes to that like big wheel thing or like whatever has the biggest payout. He will go and spend all of his money on that. And guess what?
It works.
It worked.
He always has the most tickets.
He hit the $1,000 spot. Yes.
1,000 tickets.
Yes. The 1,000 ticket spot, which 1,000 tickets can get you like,
it's like $1.
A slightly larger piece of garbage. Like double size piece of garbage.
Double the size piece of garbage.
To get anything that is even remotely cool, you would probably have to spend several nights over the summer, your entire family working toward one goal.
Yeah. So it's not all garbage, right? It's not all garbage. Like you can get...
Like say you want a lava lamp. There's always a lava lamp in those things.
Lava lamp, Nintendo Switch.
Oh, no way.
It's there. It's there. But it's there though. That's like, it's not all garbage. But like
the amount of money that you would spend at this place that shall not be named.
Any place that shall not be named. Any of them.
You would probably spend $1,000 on that Switch.
That's the whole point. When we started talking about this in the car, that was the crux of this entire conversation. We were driving past one of the spaces in town and you're like, hey, have you been in there yet? And I was like, no. And I have no desire to go in there.
Because it looks like just an arcade.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, cool. And you're like, no, it's one of those ticket places.
It's a ticket
and I was
place.
Like, no, dang it.
And so the thing of it is like the games that are not ticket based are much more expensive to play than the ticket based games. You want to play the skee ball. You want to play the big wheel. Caleb really loves that little, you pound on the thing and the little red balls drop. He loves to play that.
I do like skee ball. That's some good memories with my dad right there.
So like you can play, basketball and all sorts of, you can play all of the carnival-esque games and they'll get you tickets. And even some of the other ones get you tickets now too. But like, hey, you want to sit down and you just want to play the Jurassic Park shooter game? It's going to be $2.50. Yeah, something like that.
Half of your birthday party card. I can't talk today, y'all.
And like the whole idea behind arcade games is they are designed, you said this at the beginning, from way back when, to eat your quarters. I mean, they are significantly harder than like the console home versions of these games.
Right.
Because
well, I mean, and if you watch documentaries about arcade games, like programmers have been big into them. Here's a quick money making like opportunity. If you were a programmer, you'd make a program, a game program, but then eventually people would get so good at it that your revenue started to slow down because people could play. You need people to lose and have to put in another quarter.
Yep.
And so then they would have to redesign. And then you'd get a big stream again for a while.
Yep.
until people learned that game.
Yeah,
So
they would literally come in and replace like the boards inside of the systems that had the updated intelligence and
if you've
all
never
sorts of
watched a
stuff.
documentary
It's
about it,
gnarly.
it's pretty interesting.
So whenever like fighting games came in, like that was constant revenue because it didn't matter how good you were. It wasn't you against the machine. It was you against another person.
Right. Yeah. And there's yeah. Which, by the way, I was like, let's talk about our arcade experiences, which is hilarious because
Tell me about your arcade experience.
you tell me like about going and putting a quarter down when you're ready to play a game or whatever. My entire experience, if we're not talking about Dave and Buster's, that was like some fun. When I said like fun with my dad playing skee ball or whatever, we'd go on like dates or whatever, daddy-daughter dates. Dave and Buster's was probably my favorite one of those that we ever had. And, but outside of that, Cece's Pizza. The game room at Cece's Pizza, $2.99 buffet. Was it $2.99? I think it was $2.99.
All you can eat for only $2.99.
What? That is crazy cheap, by the way. I know why my parents took our family of 6 with 2 teenage boys to Cece's Pizza, which we had a different name for.
Oh, yeah. We won't say it, but it rhymes with Cece's Pizza. My mom used to work at the Kmart
next door
in town, and Cece's
shared the parking
right
lot
there. And I didn't get to eat there nearly as much as I wanted to.
Oh, why
if I
not?
were my mom, I would have said, "Hey,
dude, just spend the afternoon there.
This is your
eat all that." Maybe Cece's came over and was like, "Kmart, you have to tell your employees they are not allowed to use this as a daycare." They had a game room, which had the claw machine, but it had Mortal Kombat, and it had a driving game of some kind,
probably a shooter.
And a shooter. And I definitely was from a family that was like, arcade games. What a waste of money. What a waste of money and time. Also, Mortal Kombat. There's blood and violence.
Combat with a K. That's the devil's work.
And that guy's eyes are glowing. And someday, that judgmental middle schooler would have a Mortal Kombat machine in her house that her children
It's in her shed right now. So
because her husband is, one of those people.
I'm one of those.
Anyway.
Got him.
You probably played you probably have arcade experience outside of the game room at Cece's Pizza.
Absolutely, I do. Yeah. I mean, we had an arcade in our mall. We used to call it the hall or the small. Because there wasn't much of it. It wasn't even
the Great Hall.
No. It was one thoroughfare, and then it had, I think, 2 offshoots.
Hey, did we work at the mall at the same time?
Doubt it. Where'd you work?
I worked at Dillard's.
Oh, that's right. I knew that.
I worked at Dillard's.
That's how funny. So like our mall started off.
I think I was 17.
Oh, maybe then. Yeah.
Or 8. No, I was 18. I was 18.
Then no.
Oh, rats.
No. I was managing Cyber City by then.
Oh.
So our mall started off attached like out the back door of a Walmart. And so think about anything like any JC Penney's or any Dillard's or whatever, but it was a Walmart. It just not even a superstore.
I forgot that the Walmart started in the mall.
Yeah.
Which one was the Walmart?
Dillard's.
Dillard's
was the Walmart, dude. Yeah, it was crazy. And so then Walmart moved to superstore location.
Yes.
Dillard's bought that, and then it became the mall, and then eventually malls did what a lot of malls did.
Became decrepit.
Yes, they went the way of the dodo bird. And so...
Yeah, like you were lucky if you could find a storefront that was occupied.
But we did have an arcade. And so I could close my eyes and walk there. I went there so many times. And what was really great is you would come out of the back of Walmart, Dillard's, whatever it was, and then you would take the first right. And it was all the way down at the right.
Oh.
And there was a door there to the outside. So if you parked in the back, you just come in that door, go immediately to your left, and you're in there.
That was for all the bored people who didn't want to be shopping.
If you came in, or you drop your kids off, if you came in that door right next to it and you just kept going straight, you'd run into EB Games.
Okay.
You would dead end into EB Games.
Yeah.
And so this was just like, it's like Nerd Central, right?
Yeah.
And then across the way, we had B. Dalton, which was a bookstore, which had a lot of...
B. Dalton.
I'm going to unlock a lot of memories for just 1 second. But so they would have a lot of like strategy guides and all sorts. So you could just like live in this little...
You did.
I did. Triangle spot. And then you go down and go to the food court or whatever. But like, there's not a lot of real estate, not a lot to do in the mall. And you had to be really careful because right across from the arcade was the Army recruiters.
Oh,
and so
it's very strategic right there.
Absolutely.
Go Army.
If they were doing their job,
is it still Go Army?
They would have left us alone because they were like, next. Anybody else? But anyway, so we would go in there and we would play, and like that's the thing. It was not big, not at all. It wasn't huge, but it was
dark.
It was large enough to have like a lot of really great games in there. And I was there when it was in its heyday, and I watched it go down and tank.
Like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph times.
Oh, no.
No, Wreck-It Ralph was way more like that arcade was way more poppin' than what we had.
Not in the beginning of the movie.
No, but still, even then, they had more games. It was better. But as it was, like I got to watch like games like Mortal Kombat 4, like come brand new to that arcade. And oh my gosh, when a new arcade game dropped, you couldn't play it. You just couldn't play it.
Long lines.
I mean, massive. Didn't matter what day you went or anything like that. There were always people there. So
you needed to be homeschooled and go during school time.
Don't think I didn't talk about it with my parents. But
except if you're homeschooled, you're not allowed to play Mortal Kombat.
No, that's probably true. But you would go and you would put your quarter, and people honored that. Like when I sit down and think about that for a little bit, that it kind of blows my mind that I'm like, I got next. And nobody's ever like, get out of here, pipsqueak, we're playing. Like,
because it wasn't a movie.
Yeah. None of that stuff. They would get in line, or they would ask, hey, can I play another? You know, like sometimes that did happen, but you knew that like they're not playing the new Spider-Man game where it's going to take 15 days or whatever to beat it. It's like, it's just going to be a couple more minutes, you know? And so it was really good. But I mean, all that being said, what did we get out of that?
Nothing.
Not tickets.
No tickets.
I'll tell you
just, you get to pass the time. You get to know about the new thing. Yep. It's a talking point.
There were, I will say this, there were probably 3 things that were ticket machines. Because we had skee ball. We had basketball. We had way better basketball than we have now. Okay. So it was on a track. It would go back and forth, and you shot the little balls.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun. And all of the balls were different NBA teams.
I'm embarrassed to play the basketball games. I'm not good at throwing stuff.
We went to a spot, little plug for if you live in the New Albany, Louisville area. Okay. There's a place called Rec Bar in New Albany. Fantastic.
Yeah.
This place is legit. Okay.
Is it on Matt's Instagram? Not a sponsor.
Yes, it is. TikTok, Instagram,
oh, sorry.
Facebook Reels. He's on all the things these days. Retro Matt. And so, is it Retro Matt Prime? Matt knows. We'll put it in the show notes. But at the end of the day, like it's a restaurant, and then it's also old school arcade games. And you know what they don't do?
Tickets. See, like, I feel like that's refreshing because, first of all, I'm not a true minimalist. I actually think that I've dabbled in it, and I think that minimalism is actually a very privileged way to live.
Sure.
But I am anti like waste.
Okay.
And the more of that stuff comes into my house, it stresses me out because I think about all of the manufacturing and labor and stuff that goes into it.
Yes.
For it to just be something to argue over and fall apart and that I throw in the garbage at my house.
You know,
and I don't like any of that.
I'm a verbal processor.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why we have a podcast.
It's why I have been on many podcasts and starting up live streaming and all sorts of stuff again. I just always have things to say about things. And I'm having this thought in the moment. Okay.
Okay. You have 1 minute.
My business brain is kind of turned on for just a second. And so here's the thing. What if anybody who is going to open one of these things or has one of these things, tell me what you think, or just do it for all I care. What if things were ticket based? Okay. As they already are. Leave it as it is. But the tickets don't buy you garbage. The tickets they
buy you more minutes.
Drinks. Or they get you snacks or whatever. So the money is going back into the stuff that you're doing. And it actually has some purpose to the person, because us getting a 10 segmented, little caterpillar centipede thing that the kids are just going to rip apart and leave all over the house, or sticky hands that we're going to find hanging above
or
anything.
Containers of slime.
Mother-loving slime. I would
end up on my comforter. Ow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you need to calm down, lady.
I'm really upset by this.
That was good. That one's going to get on TikTok. But if all of that money poured back into that moment and that moment only, or you could use it to get more
good
tokens.
Family night. Well, that was one of my things. That I wanted to just, how could we do a night at these places just a little bit differently and not have it centered around how do I get all of these tickets so that I can bring all this stuff home, but more just like, how do we just have a really good experience? And I was thinking maybe we need to have play a game that is like, we tell our kids at the beginning, hey, we're not taking any of these tickets home. We're going to donate them to somebody else.
Which we're just do that anyway.
We do that sometimes.
Yeah.
We are going to have teams, or we're going to see who can get the highest score on such and such a game, or see if we can make a collective score of such and such.
Yeah. I
don't know. Having some other family goal, I think might redeem the whole experience for me.
I like that a lot. And if you all are going to try this, and please let us know what your experiences are and have been already. We're super interested. Hit us up on social media at Love Thy Nerd, #ChurchNerds, and just tell us kind of what's going on with your arcade experiences, good or bad, right? I think either one we would like to know. But as we start to kind of move forward in the show, we also like to talk about the spiritual side of some of these topics. So if this is your first time with us here at Love Thy Nerd, especially on Church Nerds, we like to take this topic that we're talking about and try to think about it from two different lenses, like the nerd kind of pop culture side, and then also does it have any spiritual significance? Because one of the things we really like to do with LTN is help people think more critically and Christianly about the content that they're consuming and just the way that they experience the world around them. Free Play Podcast is a podcast that we're kind of bringing to a close this season. Yep, sad face. But on that podcast, we like to talk about things, what are we reading, watching, playing, and experiencing in nerd culture? And so that being said, we want to take those ideas and those ideals and move them over into a spiritual nature. So, hey, you are going to the arcade, tickets, all that stuff. That got us thinking about things in the spiritual side of things. And it really immediately brought up to my mind, the consumeristic Christianity that we have. And because the idea, right? We've just been talking about this for a while, is that with the ticket, you're going to the arcade and you're spending all your time and your money, most people anyway, your time and your money trying to get the most tickets in order to get the little pieces of garbage. Okay. So then I start thinking about church and start thinking about the time, because we've spent most of our lives in church.
Yeah.
If not all of our life in church. You've spent more of your life in church than I've spent of mine in it.
Yeah.
And anybody who spent a significant amount of time in it beyond just kind of attending and whatever, like you've probably started to see this idea of, well, what am I getting out of church? What's church doing for me?
Mm-hmm.
I would love, I'd be happy to follow God if X, Y, and Z. Like, what's the return on this investment that I am pouring into it? And so that's kind of where we're going to spend the next couple of minutes talking about things, is like, what is the state of like consumerism in church? And again, we don't answer any questions on church. We don't have the answer for anything that you're really looking for.
Sorry.
Yeah, we just like to bring up conversation and talk about things.
Yeah, just ask you some pillow questions, or you can go home and talk about it, or you can talk to us about it if you want to.
Can do that.
Yeah, like, do we go into worship, or do we go into serving, or whatever it is, always expecting something back? Like, is there some spiritual equivalent to a fistful of tickets or a loaded up little credit card that makes us feel really important when we are 5 years old? You know, for us as grown adults, sometimes going to church and feeling like, yes, I feel like I got something out of this. Yeah. And, you know, it's not to say that there's anything entirely like I'm not writing that off as a whole. I think that if you have been involved in church your whole life and felt like you got nothing out of it, I might ask some questions about your church.
Yeah, that would be problematic.
Or how you're reading the Bible, or, you know, all kinds of things. But I do think there is a tendency in the church world that sounds like, well, I'm just not getting fed. Like, is being fed what you're getting out of it?
Yeah.
Heavy air quotes on that. Is it close friendships that you feel like you need to find your new besties at church? Because sometimes there's dry spells at church. Sometimes you go to a group and you actually don't really connect with anyone there. There are dry spells. There are churches that struggle with that. There are whole cities that struggle with that. Sometimes it's a cultural thing. Maybe the thing, it might sound like a televangelist or something. Maybe it's this person. Maybe it's that person. Some of us go into worship fully expecting like the goosebumps experience. Yeah. Like, I just met with the Lord
Not
today.
Like the R.L. Stein books. This is not Night of the Living Dummy here. Yeah.
No, just like, you know, feeling like you had to have some emotional experience at worship, or end up crying or something like that.
Yeah, I know a lot of those people in high school.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to downplay emotional experiences at worship. Please hear me. Sure. I'm not trying to downplay those things, but sometimes we have these things as qualifiers in our mind that if we don't have this experience somewhere or at a certain church, that we just didn't get enough out of it, and we're going to move on. Sometimes it isn't those things. Sometimes it's like the pat myself on the back, or the recognition of like being a really good server, like servant.
Yeah.
The old faithful. Or sometimes it is people who need an entire room full of people to sit there and listen to them.
Yeah.
While they are talking.
I struggle with that.
Oh, it's getting real.
No, I mean, like, honestly, like it's really difficult for me. And even when we started this podcast, and when we started every podcast, it was like, we feel like we had something to say, a voice to add to whatever, right? In the different areas. But I try not to think about the numbers. I really do. I try not to, worry about how many people are listening or viewing or doing whatever. But man, there's just something about that feeling of there being a bunch of people that are like, yeah, I had somebody just the other day. Okay.
I don't think there are. We were doing okay. And then we took a really, really long break.
Well, we got Tom Nook. We got a new.
Oh, okay. Yep. New podcast host.
Which it's actually pretty fitting that this is the episode that he debuted on. Because he's a crook. He's just
all
out
in
for
it for whatever he can get. What's all your tickets? All your bells.
But I think that like as we start to kind of move forward with all of these things, a little bit of introspection and not just go, hey, what are you dealing with? I try as best as I can to kind of move into these situations with that mindset, because I know that if I'm not moving forward, if I'm not progressing, if I'm not constantly in some form of change, like, Romans 12:1-2, offer your body as a living sacrifice. Like this is this constant transformation, metamorphosis process here. If I'm not constantly doing that, how in the world am I going to try and help other people understand that like you're not done cooking yet either, right? So one of the things that I thought about as you were kind of going through this was sometimes we get things out of church that are absolutely all the stuff on this list, or we're looking for those things. And sometimes we're looking, hey, come and fix me. Mm-hmm. There's a thing that is broken within me that I know, or somebody has made very clear is broken within me. Do that. Or even harder than that, I need you to fix
my spouse, my kids,
something else.
Yeah.
Right. And then
our family's really going through it. So we're going to show up at church now.
Yep. And we've heard dozens of those stories where people are like, yeah, I went to church and nothing really changed for my family. And I'm like, well, I mean, just being there is not always enough. Mm-hmm. Right. Like we say this all the time. And this is a stupid, saying.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Do you want to say it or do you want me to say it?
Going to McDonald's doesn't make you a hamburger.
Absolutely, it doesn't. Not a sponsor, unless they want to be. But it just being in the space doesn't create the change. It creates the opportunity for the change. But even you and I we're going through two different reading plans of the Bible. And we've talked about this a little bit on previous episodes of Church Nerds. But we're still both squarely in the Old Testament, and so
will be the entire year.
Ta-da!
Right.
Maybe.com. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know where mine's taking me.
Oh,
I'm just following the
LTN
Daily.
Adventure. Okay.
I'm following the LTN Daily podcast playlist rather. And so you can find that at lovethynerd.com/daily if you are looking for a plan. And so the idea is that like in the Old Testament, like God was there. But just because you were there with him doesn't mean that you were experiencing the fullness of the goodness of his glory. Like you may have been experiencing it completely improperly because you're not encountering him in the proper way, right? And it's not because you just didn't know how. Like you chose not to experience him in the proper way. And so us going to church, I think that it's different, okay? It's not the same as it was back in ye olden times. But if we just come to church and we're like, I'm just going to sit here in the pew, change me. Like that's not the way. Like that's not what God is looking for. He's interested in the relationship that we have with him and how that is expressed through our relationship with other people. And so it's super important that we don't just come in with this frontward facing consumeristic approach to Christianity.
Well, there's a lot of these things that, like I was saying, are like in and of themselves, if they are happening, it's not a bad thing to want those things to happen necessarily.
No.
It's just very difficult sometimes. The way I talk about this is like, you think you're building God's kingdom, but like some of your blocks get mixed in with some of his blocks. And then eventually, like, whose kingdom are you building? And then eventually there's going to be a wave washes in and the sandy things, they're just going to wash right out. And, I think that building our own kingdom, and it slips in so like quietly. It can just masquerade as being so good sometimes. And it's easy to recognize these things in other people. It's hard to recognize these things in ourselves, that it's like, oh man, my motives for serving were not great. My heart coming into worship today was not
good.
Wasn't so good.
Not good.
What was I trying to fill by having this teaching role that I've had for years and years and years and years? And was that really pure, or was it really more self-seeking? Because I think that there's two things that we have to hold in tension, which is something we talk about a lot on this podcast. And I think that anybody who's truly following Jesus has to talk about this a lot.
Yep.
In the one hand, it's that things like community, things like fulfillment, they can come to us in the way that we are worshiping, in the way that we serve at church, because being faithful, living righteously, seeking God's kingdom first, like Jesus said, after he's talked about this long list of all of the things that people are trying to get and feeling deficient in, he's like, hey, stop worrying about all that stuff. Here's what you should do. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. So stop it. Just stop it.
For everybody who hummed along with me. Yeah.
He says those things are going to be added, so that there is going to be a return. That is true. And it's always been true throughout the Old Testament. The way that God told his people to live, it blessed them. Yeah. And it blessed not only them, but also all of the nations around them. If they were doing it properly and correctly, it paid to live in proximity with God's people. Those things are still true. If we are living in our communities in the way that Jesus set forth for us to live, those principles are going to add value to our lives.
That's one of the things that really stuck out to me in, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and now even into Deuteronomy, where I'm at right now, is the phrase, and the foreigners among you. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so where I'm at in Deuteronomy, it's in just the first couple of chapters, it's talking about even you're not going to be able to go into this land and invade it because I've given it to other people, but when you do, it's going to be good for everybody if you do it properly. Now you read it and there's a lot of stuff in there that's not super great for everybody. It's pretty gnarly.
It's hard to read.
But I was thinking about that just the other day, and I was like, man, that, the reason that stuff is happening is because they didn't do it properly. God said, this is the land that I'm going to give to you. And they were like, they're too big. It's too scary. He's like, all right, we'll do it the hard way, And so a trip that should have taken 11 days is now taking 40 years. Right. And so it's this idea of when God puts us in these places, whether it's our churches or our community groups or wherever, he's giving us an opportunity to do things his way, the easy way. Right? It may not always be, we'll say the simple way, because it may not always be easy. Because with service comes sacrifice. We understand that. Or at least we should understand that in some way, shape, or form. And so when we're talking about ways that we serve, even in our local church, when it's okay, what does service mean? Service is, toddlers on Sunday morning. That is sacrifice. And it's not sacrifice in the most huge and meaningful way, but you and I were even talking about this just the other day, yesterday maybe, about Easter. Hey, what are we doing on Easter? Are we going to serve on Easter? Where are we going to serve on Easter? And even some of the conversations that we were having were well, where do we serve so that ... And the ... dots for us were so that we can be in worship, so that we can sit together with our families, so that we can which these things are not bad things.
Right.
They're
Especially
not evil.
when with our kids, the ages that they are.
Yeah.
If we had teenagers who could be trusted to sit quietly by themselves.
But we also understand,
different.
specifically as it pertains to Easter, that the childcare side of things is the hardest thing to fill. So what would be the most loving and serving thing for us to do? Work in the childcare area. And so
again,
that's probably what we haven't had this conversation yet, but
I'm learning things right now about
probably what we're going to end up doing.
Plans next Sunday.
because of the way that you and I, we're 2 weeks away, because of the way that you and I,
it's not like this weekend, but the next one.
Yes. Yeah. Because of the way that you and I view service, and it's not just, I'm going to look dead in the camera here. It's not just at your church. Okay. That's not what we're talking about. That is a portion of service. Mm-hmm. If you think that serving the Lord only means I do these things inside of my church building on X day of the week that my church meets to do whatever it does, that's not it. It's so much more than that. How are you serving the Lord and seeing His will be done, not yours, on earth as it is in heaven, in the space that you find yourself in on a daily basis, right? Like throughout the week. So again, I think that comes down to the consumeristic thing too. Like, all right, I'm going to come to church and you're going to give me service opportunity. That's part of why I'm here, is to get service opportunity. When we're like, no, sweetie, like we will, I promise you that we will, but you also have to do that stuff when you're not here. That's important. That's part of you growing without us having to hold your hand. Because you start to read off in scripture and, get into the New Testament and all sorts of really, really wonderful and amazing and, just spiritually rich stuff. And Paul is like, stop with the milk. Stop it. You want us to feed you. You want us to do all this stuff, but you need meat now. And part of meat means hunting and going out and doing stuff and getting your hands dirty and figuring things out and learning how to do all the things that are around that. Like it's important that we as Christians, and if you're not a Christian, please enjoy this peek behind the curtain of at least how we feel we should be thinking about things. We don't always operate this way either. We like canned Bible studies. We like things that are plated for us. We like, neatly put together Bible reading plans and all sorts of things where we can just kind of plug in and go. But at the end of the day, if we're not engaging in our own spiritual growth, and if we're only looking for what we can get out of these experiences, then we totally miss the entire thing. The Beatitudes no longer hold any weight. You might as well just skip over, the first good portion of Matthew while you're reading the Bible, because it's all about other people and how you treat them. And so, I don't know, like all of these things just start to kind of bubble to the surface. And as we kind of wrap up this section, it's important to us that we think about these things. And so when Anna and I bring up these topics on this podcast, it's because we're talking about these things like in our life. Literally, this was sparked by a conversation of us just driving down the road, not going, okay, what's the hot topic that everybody wants to talk about? We did it. We talked about Taylor Swift at the top.
Oh yeah,
we got it out. We got it out of the way. But the spiritual stuff is like, these are things that not just we've dealt with, but we've watched people in our community deal with. We built our own small group on the backs of people not being able to get out of like pouring into things, right? Like it was a lack of what are they getting out of this? Mm-hmm, and so like we're attacking this from all sorts of different angles. And so if there's something for you that has worked, please let us know. Either let Anna and I know personally if you know us, or hit us up on social media at Love Thy Nerd. I almost said exclamation point. That's a Twitch stream thing. I didn't mean to say it like that. #ChurchNerds. so that we can find those and distill that information. But it's super helpful to us if you share your experiences with us, because we have the testimonies of each other, that even if I don't have a story for something, I would love to have your story to be able to draw off of as well.
Well, I mean, I never got back to, I talked about something
Swift.
in one hand, but not the tension of the other.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Tensions to be managed.
Well, just, there's all of that is something that God's people are supposed to be doing, and we will be blessed. I think that what we hold in that intention with is our own tendency to walk into a space and feel like we have a right to that thing, or that we have earned that thing somehow. And then it becomes a sort of weird works situation. But kind of the last little thing that I was thinking about is that church involvement. If we're talking about church here, like church involvement, we really need to think of it more on like a long-term investment level than a lottery ticket, like, haul. That it's sometimes there are going to be portions of it where we feel rich and blessed and all of these things, but there really are going to be some times when
just eat your money.
We have to serve through the hard, or we have to show up and feel like I got nothing out of that worship set. I hate all of these lights, or I wish there were better lights. Yep. Just depending on what kind of a thing you like. Because we've been in both of those kinds of situations. And it can be hard either way.
And we'll be in them again.
Yep.
Like that's the thing is we've not reached the top of the mountain as far as this stuff is concerned, or as far as anything's concerned for that matter. So again, we just want to start the conversation, kind of give you an idea of where our head's at, and maybe you can have some really good conversations with the people in your friend group or your family or your small group at your church or whatever. Doesn't matter to us. We just hope that these are spurring on conversations where you find yourself. Hey, we're going to wrap up our show. And before we do that, we like to offer, I guess we haven't done this the last couple of times, but normally on Church Nerds, we will offer you a nerdy recommendation. And this one is super duper selfish because...
A little bit. It's mostly selfish because I couldn't think of an actual thing to push that had to do with this episode. Well, the nerdy recommendation doesn't necessarily have to do with the episode. Like not everything has to be like, this isn't VBS, right? Like we're not just cramming everything. I like it to be thematic. Yeah. I do. The arcade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's not what you typed here, but yes, the arcade. You changed it.
I remembered what we talked about.
In the moment that I looked up, and then looked back down, it changed in the notes.
Yes.
And that's totally fine. Yeah, the arcade.
I don't even know if this link that I typed exists.
It is not. So I'm just going to say, go to lovethynerd.com/Discord. And in our Discord server, there's a section called the arcade. Now, way back when, the arcade used to be, it was a podcast, shocker. Matt
it was the origin of the Free Play podcast.
It actually, yes, it was the predecessor to that. It has a lot of different things, but it's the final iteration of it was Matt, Kate, and myself. Mm-hmm. And so then that moved into the Free Play podcast. But what it is now is it's a series of spaces where people can get together, play games. We have, a lot of audio channels that you can get into. And then if you want to stream your video content or, video games that you're playing or whatever, you can do that in there as well. We just create space for you to experience a digital arcade. Because here's the thing. This is my entire idea behind it. And I've talked with Caffeine, who is our community manager, and with Matt, who oversees all that stuff as a CPO. And I've talked with Silver about it when she was doing community management. The idea behind that is that when you go to the arcade, you just show up there.
Mm-hmm.
and boom, you start playing a game. And maybe somebody's there also playing a game. Maybe they're not. It doesn't really matter. You're there to play games. So not everything is always publicized or talked about. But sometimes you do tell your friends, hey, I'm going to be at the arcade, Saturday from, noon to 5, right? Or whatever. And so you can set up a time to meet somebody there and play a game, or just meet them there and play whatever you want to play. And that's the beauty of it, is that we're on the internet now, so you can play whatever you want to play.
Can I show up there and cook dinner with people?
You can.
Okay.
Wow, that's wild. You absolutely can. A lot of people are doing watch parties these days.
Used to
she had a cooking stream.
Yeah, I don't think it was on the arcade, but similar, yeah.
Another thing you can do at the arcade is you can have your birthday party at the arcade. So you can plan actual events.
Has somebody really had their birthday party at the arcade?
At our arcade?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
No. But the idea is that you can have actual...
I was getting so excited for a second.
I'll do your birthday at the arcade.
Okay.
You can have actual events at an arcade. And so with our arcade, we're going to have actual events as well that are in our Discord that you can see under the events tab and all sorts of stuff.
Will there be party hats?
Only party hats.
Candles?
Nope, just party hats.
Kazoos?
Just party hats.
Rats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Party hat shaped kazoos.
My birthday party last year was a gardening party.
It was. Oh my gosh. Hey, we're still actually...
It was a good party.
Yeah, it's still...
10 out of 10 stars.
We should talk about our backyard on one of these.
Okay.
We'll do it next episode. We'll figure out a way to banter about that. It's kind of wild right now. But hey, go check out the arcade. It is a section in our Discord. If you don't know what Discord is, do yourself a favor. Go to lovethynerd.com and just search Discord. Okay. We have some really cool articles and videos that help you to understand what and why is Discord. And you can find all that stuff there. And if you have any questions, please ask me. Don't ask Anna. She's hardly ever on the thing, but you can ask me.
I am the worst person to ask about Discord.
I'm on Discord a lot. So I would love to help you understand that. The baseline of it is that is where our community exists. We have a Facebook group. We have other social media accounts, but we believe that true community happens on Discord. So if you have any questions about that, let us know.
True community. Yikes. That was like real. Everywhere else is fake.
I mean, for us, it's the most deep-seated community that we have outside of IRL.
Okay, well, all right.
It's not Facebook, I'll tell you that much.
I have a church nerds memory verse for you. Philippians 2:3-4 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others." Good one. Thank you for coming up with that.
I didn't write it.
You came up with I did not select this this time.
Yeah.
I did a lot of other stuff for this show, but that was where I just drew blank this time.
Yeah.
So
we each have our crosses to bear as far as the show is concerned. I
wrote this entire episode, by the way, last night during Pi Day, because for us that was yesterday at the time of this recording. I had decided that our 3-year-old was going to go to bed early because he was cranky. And this spring break has been brutal as far as the bedtimes are concerned. He's been staying up way too late. And I was like, it's too many nights of late bedtimes. We need to go to bed early and get more sleep. Except that his little body has become trained to stay up until 10 p.m. because also it's the first week of daylight savings time.
Oh my gosh.
So,
dude,
it is, our bodies are
wrecked.
Like our internal clocks completely jacked right now.
I mean,
and especially his. So I was like, we're going to go to bed early. Guess who did not go to sleep early? PJ Stallcup. That little boy.
He went to bed real late.
Oh my goodness.
10?
He was awake so late. Yeah, something like that. And I was like, I came out when he'd finally fallen to sleep and was like, he is down. Also, the entire podcast episode is written because I didn't know what else to do.
That's a win-win. Yeah, I'll take it.
Bruh, that was rough. I know there are parents out there who just put their children down in their beds and then walk away. You are not looking at one of those parents right now.
You're not looking at two of those parents right now.
Can't do it.
Nope.
I can't listen to the screaming. We are enablers all the way.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember when, because this is how our boys operate.
Yeah.
Nene, she would just lay down. I'm tired. I'm going to bed.
I call that a unicorn child.
Yep.
Because in my experience, they are incredibly rare. They are not the norm.
Yeah. I also learned not too long ago that unicorn was more than likely rhinoceros.
Okay.
This would be
Okay.
unicorn. So yeah, try and think about that. Try not to think about that next time somebody says unicorn.
Less graceful.
Yeah, it's
but
different.
I only exclusively want to see rainbow rhinoceroses.
Well, now it makes it a little bit more believable that they were on the ark, didn't it? Got them. Hey, anyway, we're going to wrap up this episode here. Thank you so much again for spending just a little bit of your time with us here on the Church Nerds podcast. I don't know what episode this is. 91?
91.
Episode
Meow,
91
meow, meow.
of the Church Nerds podcast. Again, do us a favor.
3 episodes on time.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Good job, us.
Boom. Well, to be fair, Radio Matt is kind of riding me about it. So
excellent.
he'd be like, "Hey, you gonna get that? Get that episode?"
We've been on time. We've been on time.
And I mean, again, this is just for nobody other than just us. We're working in a new program. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Notion. We'll talk about Notion, I'm sure, a lot.
That can be next podcast.
Yeah. It's helping to keep me on task, which is then annoying everybody else and kind of keeping them, at least because of the newness of it, abreast of the situation, what's going on.
Okay.
So,
cool.
That being said, hey, we got another episode in 2 weeks for you, and that will be, I guess that'll be our post-Easter episode, right?
Unless we're doing another special Easter episode, but it doesn't make much sense.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be serving children.
Yeah, we'll talk all about our
ministry.
Easter experiences. So if we want to hear from you, don't forget to let us know what your Easter experience was. What happened at your church? What was the crazy thing that happened? Because there will be a crazy thing that happened.
One time, we released butterflies.
Oh, boy.
As like a new...
Save it.
Okay.
It's good. It's so good.
I will not tell you what happened until later.
Next episode. Please set the hook. Come back next one. You're going to want to hear about that. We had some wild stuff. And I want to hear about yours. What are the wildest, craziest things that happened in your Easter services, no matter where they are, or a story that you heard about a really cool one? But we're going to get out of here. Do yourself a favor. Go to lovethynerd.com. Find all of the hundreds of hours worth of content that we have out there. And we've not talked about this yet, but we are now on Glue, GLU, God Loves You Network. You can go and...
Oh, okay. Yep. There are multiple glues.
Yes. And so you can go and check that out. And basically what that is it is a curated Christian network for video content. And so we're one of the featured creators on there.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So you
That's
can go
exciting.
there. If you have, Roku or a smart TV or anything that lets you download apps, then you can go and check that out. It's also, I believe, on Apple TV and Google Play Store and all those things. And they're working on a bunch of different apps. But it would help us out, and it would also help you out if you just want to have content that you can play without worrying about what is going to be on your television. You can go play the Love Thy Nerd stuff on Glue, GLU.
It is not a Taylor Swift concert.
Not yet. But maybe we'll see. I don't know. She's kind of influencing the world as it is. But you can go check that out. And the links to all that stuff will be in the show notes and description below on this video and this podcast page. Once again, I'm Bubba Stallcup.
I'm Anna, and this is Tom Nook.
The Crook. And hey, we'll catch you next time on another episode of the Church Nerds podcast. And if no one else tells you this, just remember it's true. Tell him, Tom. Jesus loves you, nerds. Bubba.
My name's Anna.
And you're tuned into Church Nerds, a proud member of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. And we're back.
We're back. In black.
Not black. In a darker color than before. It's dark blue. She's talking about our background, the paint.
And also Men in Black too.
And also the Men in Black too.
Mostly our black room here.
Well, for those of you that are joining us on the video version, whether on any of the syndicated platforms that we're on, or YouTube, or on our website, or wherever, you can see that we're in a completely different setup right now.
Check it out. It's super cool.
It is.
This used to be what we called the murder garage.
And it was. Not that we didn't can neither confirm nor deny.
Technically a murder garage, but it could have been a set.
It looked like
for
some place where something might have happened.
Movie murder, because there were like wires everywhere and random pieces of rebar sticking out of the wall, and the sheetrock was brown.
Some of it still is. Yeah, just off camera.
On our ceiling, it still is like that. I've never seen brown sheetrock before.
I didn't even know.
But I'm assuming that must be a late 1970s thing.
Which is the model of house that we have. It's vintage.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your dad came and visited.
He did.
And we ripped out the garage door, which doubled as
right over there.
a like radiator furnace.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the summertime, and
it was like a sender and a transmitter as far as heat goes.
Or cold. I mean, it was freezing or hot in here, just depending on what it was outside. Put in a little window, put up new sheetrock. We have flooring,
all of it,
door.
Yeah.
Still could use a lot of insulation.
This wall behind Anna didn't exist. We built that wall.
Did not.
We need insulation in the ceiling. But other than that.
And you painted it.
Yeah.
As close to black as we could get it. You guys, apparently proper black paint is not a thing.
No. We
were going for this color called squid ink, which was like real cool. It was inky. It was like really, really black with kind of a greeny blue.
Like a real light, subtle greeny blue.
Very subtle.
But it also, I've said this 1,000 times, it was also iridescent. And so...
It was a picture on the internet. You couldn't tell if it was iridescent.
I read the description and it said iridescent. And so like it had stuff in the paint.
But it wasn't an actual paint sample. It was just this shade of black exists in the world. But you will never find black paint for your home. Maybe for like a canvas.
We're opening up Squid Farm. I'm gonna harvest a bunch of ink. I don't know how it works.
Ew.
I think you just
squid ink.
I think you just gotta like scare an octopus.
It sounds unethical.
I've seen it on Finding Nemo.
I don't like it. No.
Yep.
No, we're not doing that.
But that being said, this is a brand new space, and you may see it start to evolve or devolve over time.
You have these lights back here, which are pretty cool.
And the lights, for those of you that are watching, the lights are doing exactly what I want them to do. Here's a fun fact. The darker your space is, the more you can control the light, which is exactly what I like to do as a former tech director. I like to control as much as I possibly can, light included.
And I mean, this room is cool.
Isn't it cool?
But it is not the kind of thing that I would do, because I'm like, everything should be white and as many windows as possible. Sunshine. Because vitamin D is important.
No, I'm trying to black it out. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, it's real depressing sometimes.
It does, and it looks cool.
Anyway.
And this is the backdrop. I just sit like right over there. Like this is the same camera that I use for all my live streaming or my meetings or whatever it is. And so this is the backdrop. Fingers crossed,
like setup for this is going to be much shorter than it was.
This was a lot easier.
Back in our other seasons, which, okay, let's talk about it. Season is a loose term for the last season, which was all of what? Two episodes. Yeah. One of them was Easter.
The last one was
Easter is almost upon us again. Here's the issue, people. If there's one way in the world to get our family immediately sick. It is for Radio Matt to send Bubba a Discord message that says, hey man, do you think Church Nerds can make an episode this week? Boom,
But
sick.
I have to
Puking
reply.
immediately.
I have to reply. No problem. If I don't reply, no problem, then there's a possibility the episode gets out.
So this episode included, fun fact, this is the third time that we have recorded
Full
it.
time.
Because, and we probably ought to check our recording right now to make sure that it's actually working because
I did some testing. I know that I'm going to eat my words, but like I did some testing.
Don't you dare. We had some big sound quality issues, like unusable sound.
Like order new equipment, unusable.
Yes. And so that was a thing that happened. But the first couple times we recorded it, you were sick. We have had puking in the house.
I'm feeling a lot better.
You have puked?
I did, dude. I threw up so bad.
We talk about this all the time, and I'm sorry, but here we are again, because this is just the thing that happens to us whenever it's time to record. And I'm sorry, and it makes me sad because we want to do this podcast. People might think that we don't love this podcast because it is neglected, but it's not our fault. But we're going to try to be persistent.
Yep.
Going to do our best.
Not just consistent, but persistent.
Which means persistent is like you keep going through adversity. Not just you keep going, but you keep going through adversity. So like, that's what we're going to try to do. We're not going to get into
details, but like today is a perfect example. I looked Anna in the mouth, looked her right in the mouth.
No, don't.
You know what they say? You don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
What? What is happening?
I looked her right in the face. And I said, which just for the record is where your mouth is. It's on your face. I looked her right in the face and I asked her, I said, hey, babe, is today the best day? And you said, we have to.
I said, we have to do it.
We have to. And I was like, okay, hey, that's all I need to know. But that's part of the persistent. And we did. This is the third time we've recorded this particular episode. If that's not persistence, I don't know what is.
Yeah. So you had that little mix up with your words.
I did.
The other day, I'm not going to even say it because it would be inappropriate for this podcast.
Did I say something?
No.
Oh.
I was singing a song and I thought that the word was going to be testimony. It ended up being like miracle. And then I mixed the words. So you can put those together and see what you say. And that's what I said.
Miramony. The word is miramony.
Absolutely. That's what I said.
It's definitely miramony. I love that so much.
I had not shared that with you before.
You had not. Hey.
Anyway.
Hey, if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Church Nerds podcast. I think what miramony is not a bad word. It was, if it's your first time, welcome. Anna and I are married. I'm the CEO, president, and founder here at Love Thy Nerd. Anna is not just my wife. She is a planning center guru.
No. You mean I am an office systems coordinator?
That's what your title is. That is not what you do. You are a planning center guru.
I do a lot of planning center, among other things, but most of my time is spent in planning center. Yeah. Thank you, planning center. I love you so much. And I'm sorry that I send in so many support requests.
Planning center, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, man. Someday I'm going to work there. But anyway, yes, I have big girl job, which is a little different than the last time that we were able to create an episode, which is exciting. It's a job I really, really wanted. Came with a lot of challenges personally, which we will talk about in our segments here coming up.
Yeah, and probably in great detail for the rest of the season.
Also, I reinvented myself. Mostly.
If you are watching.
Do you see my blue light glasses?
I see them.
They're so cool.
Yeah, they're leopard print.
Yes, and they're huge. Like they're from the 1990s, which is, the late 1900s.
There it is.
That's what our children call the 1990s.
Unironically, too.
In which I was convinced at the age of 4 years old or so that I really needed glasses. Well, I wanted them. I wanted them very badly because both of my older siblings needed glasses really bad.
Okay.
And, but I didn't, but I would hear them talking about, things being blurry. And so in an effort to convince my mother that I also needed glasses because I wanted them,
Okay.
I would unfocus my eyes and I would be like, hey, Mom, I think I need glasses. Everything's all blurry. And she would be like, And so I also was learning to read at this time.
Yeah.
Learning all my letters and phonics. We were big into phonics. And so we'd be driving on the San Antonio freeway somewhere, and she would say, hey, Anna, what does that sign say way over there? And I, who am just huge know-it-all, would be like, oh, it says blah, 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 blah. And she was like, ha, you do not need glasses. I knew it. And I was like, no.
How old were you when you told her that you crossed your eyes and blurred your vision?
Oh, I don't know.
Was that dedication?
I did a lot of really weird things that could have ended badly. Did I ever tell you that I also tried to put sequins on my eyeballs, like contacts? Because my mom had contacts.
Sequins?
Sequins. Because, they're kind of cornea shaped.
You tried to like bedazzle your eyeballs?
Yes. I never was successful, which was for my benefit in the end. But I guess, I don't know. I had some weird obsession with like ocular modifications. I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, I do get glasses now because it was one of the first things that I did was get blue light blockers because I like sleeping at night and also I wanted them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it doubles as my work modes. It's like working on now. And I think I pull it off because most people are like, man, I really love your glasses.
Dude, I've been trying to tell you this, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You inspired a fashion line with the teenage girls, not all of them, but some of the teenage girls at our church. They started wearing blue light blockers.
This is false. They learned it from somewhere else.
No.
But I will say, while I don't have the eyeballs for glasses, I do have the face for them.
You do. Well, the eyeballs will come later. Like it's all
That's true.
It's
I'm just
all
practicing,
coming down the road.
but it's exciting. And so usually I forget to take them off long after I have stopped looking at screens.
Oh, it's ridiculous, actually.
Like I come home in them and Bubba's like, are you going to do some work at home? And I'm like, no.
It's like when you get home and people are still like wearing their shoes for hours and it's like, hey, you want to
take your coat off. Stay a while.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, speaking of staying a while, we hope that you'll join us as we finish out this episode. We're just getting started. And we're just getting started with this season. And so we've got a lot of really cool things. We hope a lot of really like good and engaging conversations in the pipeline for you here on Church Nerds. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about rhythm. Before we get into that, I want to encourage you to maybe create a new rhythm in your life of heading on over to lovethynerd.com, checking out all the wonderful and amazing articles and podcasts and videos that we have. Hundreds of hours worth of content. I mean, hundreds of hours worth of content.
Have you counted the hundreds yet?
I actually tried.
Are you into the thousands?
Millions.
Oh, okay.
Or unless you're our daughter and you don't know how the decimal point works, and then
hey, we're working on place value.
Could be literally any
we
number.
are working on it. Yeah.
But place values aside, go and check that stuff out. We have a lot of great resources. Specifically, if you are a person who is a church worker or a minister. We want to help equip you to have these really great conversations with people that either come to your church, could come to your church, or you just meet at a family gathering. It doesn't matter. They're going to have questions about Dungeons and Dragons and how that correlates with Christianity and shouldn't we? What is a furry? Why board games? What's a video game? How do I Fortnite? Like all of these things. Do yourself a favor. Go to lovethynerd.com. In the search bar, type in the word or the thing that you're looking for and just enjoy all of the stuff that comes your way.
Can't guarantee you'll find any real answers there. That's not really, well. Maybe
Hopefully
more
there you
answers
find the
there.
answers.
You won't find any
Not
answers to
here.
questions here. We
No,
only
no.
we only ask them.
Yeah, we're about creating conversation on this podcast, not answering anything. That being said, hey, Anna, today we're talking about rhythm.
Rhythm.
Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up. It's bobsled time.
And what?
It's from Cool Runnings.
Oh, I was going to say like,
I should have had an egg. You could have kissed my lucky egg.
I don't remember that. I guess I need to watch this movie again.
I know what we're doing today. We're going to watch Cool Runnings. Jamaica, we got a bobsled team. It's Disney.
Okay. Well,
I just triggered like so many like nostalgic memories for people. And you're like, what's an Aladdin? Never heard of her.
hey, so one of the other times that we were recording this podcast, we were triggering all kinds of other memories that had to do with like Microsoft 95, probably Windows 95.
Okay.
Talking about our favorite like card decks. And the reason we were talking
For
about
solitaire.
it is because we were talking about the difference between games that might have been on like Windows 95 and, you know, earlier types of video games, like Pong and Tetris and things like that, that had a very, you know, they were kind of one note. Like you did the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You did one thing. They were kind of monotonous. And as they increased in difficulty, it just kind of, it was like faster and faster and faster, or more and more, I don't know, things shooting at you, or I don't know. We talked about
that's how the skill level progressed, was you
Right.
stayed
Right.
exactly where you were doing the same thing that you were doing. It just all happened faster.
Except, I mean, not so much in solitaire, which,
How did solitaire get harder? Like what was...
well, you could make it easier by using every card instead of every 3 cards and allowing yourself to recycle through the deck. But if you want to be like black belt solitaire playing is you only use like the 3rd card, and you can only go through the deck
once,
like one time, or maybe
you
3 times.
You get one wash.
Is it 3 times?
I don't know.
Anyway,
Still to this day, I lose more than I win at solitaire because it's just a game of chance.
right. We talked about Rodent's Revenge.
That's right. We did figure out what the name of that game was. Do you guys remember Rodent's Revenge?
There's a little mouse.
Yeah, everything looked like Minesweeper back then, and so like it was the little mouse that you were trying to get through and find the cheese.
It's like some of the blocks were movable, some of the blocks were not movable, and that one got harder because more cats. The cats were trying to eat you. Also, by the way, I'm not very happy that you've already talked about this on Free Play Podcast.
To be fair, we recorded this episode allegedly well before we did Free Play.
We recorded it before, and we talked about Minesweeper. And then I was like, I want to play Minesweeper. And then you saw me playing Minesweeper, and you said, and I quote, hey, teach me how to play this game. And my brain
teach me how to sweep.
Exploded. Because how did you not know how to play Minesweeper?
Listen, I come from a broken home. All right. And
no.
I can't use that excuse.
Oh my goodness. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I think my jaw literally dropped because that was so strange. And then you became obsessed.
I love it so much. I want to play right now. I'm halfway through a game that I need to finish.
I see.
Because Kate, she Apple paid me $5 because I talked about it on Free Play, and I was like, I'm thinking about getting the thing. Apple paid me like right then.
Oh, Apple paid you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought
so
you were saying
I could buy the ad free do everything version.
Yes.
And I love it so much. I think it's called like Minesweeper Collection. And it's, ads and all sorts of stuff, but it gamifies it. And look, have you gotten to the hexagon part?
Yes, I don't like it.
I didn't like it at first, because we go way back with Minesweeper. I didn't like it. I go back up 1 week with Minesweeper. I didn't like it to begin with. It's so much easier.
It's less because there's only 6 blocks touching, which they shouldn't, are they called blocks? Units.
Hexagons.
There are only 6 of them touching as opposed to the 8 that are on.
Yes. It's so fast.
The regular one.
Anyway, like, so I didn't grow up playing Minesweeper because it was too difficult for me. Like that's the reason.
It's so weird to me because you liked Zelda and all kinds of, and like Mario, things that were way harder conceptually.
So I'm on the computer. Okay. What I'm playing on the computer, Diablo, a game called Rise of the Triad, a game called Duke Nukem. I was playing Doom. I was playing a lot of like first person shooter stuff. Mm-hmm. And so to go from that, and it's a lot of things
to like
happen,
solving
to
puzzles.
Like, blink, blink, click, square, boom, bored. And we talked about this too. There was no tutorial. It was just sweep the mines.
Are you sure about that?
No, I am not sure about that.
I think that you're wrong. I think that there was.
I am both not sure.
There was always a help thing.
Oh, I'm both not sure and completely sure.
This is, I had older people than me playing it.
If Clippy
Here's
would
one
help me.
thing that his name is not Clippy. His name is Clippit.
Well,
get it right.
We're tight, he and I.
Anyway, now you made me lose my train of thought. Oh, I watched other people play it. Okay. And one thing that is missing from the versions that we have found is that you, on the OG version,
here we go.
You could right click it twice to make it a question mark, like so that you could kind of do a trial run type of thing to see if your math worked out in the end or whatever.
So a thing that they have done on this new one is that they've made it to where, say you got a 1 corner. Okay. We love the 1 corners.
Yeah.
Right. You can just press and hold the 1 and it will place a flag on the only one that's available. Okay. And then if there's a 1 above that's touching it, you can just tap on the 1 and it'll clear out everything that's close to it. Now that's a blessing and a curse because if you place it in the wrong spot, it'll clear all the ones that you want it to, and it'll kaboom it.
Oh dear. Well,
so anyway,
it's only fair.
When we started this conversation like a week ago, I could not hang in a conversation about Minesweeper. Now, your boy's got strategies.
Oh my gosh.
I'm good to go. Hey, and this also, we were talking about Lemmings.
We did talk about Lemmings.
Also downloaded a Lemmings app on my phone.
It's still boo Lemmings. I did not like Lemmings. I mean, to be fair, similar to where you are, where it's like you were probably too young to play it when you first discovered it. So it was, it wasn't fun. Lemmings, much the same. Like, what a dumb game, in my opinion.
But it's not dumb. All right. Listen, Lemmings, if you're out there and if you're listening, I love it. I like what you're doing. I'm a big fan. And even like the new stuff that they're doing. But what we wanted to kind of talk, how we got into that conversation in the first place was we were talking about this massive contrast between like, again, a game that's just, you're in one spot. It doesn't matter. You remember like the downhill skiing game?
Okay.
On Windows. And then like the Yeti would come get you if you were trying to dodge trees and jump over moguls and stuff. Like it's just the progression was more faster, maybe a certain level of difficulty.
Yeah.
But these days in games, the progression and difficulty,
it's not so much about like the grinding, doing the same thing over and over, faster and faster.
Right.
It's more of the value of this like rich, more mimicking the seasons and like days sometimes.
Yeah.
So the first time that I played a game that really did that was Stardew Valley. So, you've got your daytime stuff that you can do, and you have spring and summer and fall and winter, and things that you can only grow at certain times, and your animals are doing different things, and your neighbors are hanging out in different places, and you can forage for different stuff. And then there's also like the daytime and the nighttime. You can go and pass out in the middle of town or in the caves and show up in Harvey's hospital room and be like, oh, Anna, be more careful next time. Someone brought you to the hospital, but you might be missing a few things from your backpack. Harvey, I'm on to you. You are the common denominator. Were you stealing things from my backpack after I married you?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
How dare you?
Yeah, what a slap in the face.
I brought you so much wine.
Maybe that was the problem though.
Sheesh. I didn't realize what I was doing.
He really liked the wine, that guy. Really liked the special communion juice.
Anyway, and so like there are now Stardew Valley, you have like your days in Stardew Valley, they only count if you're there playing the game. So you will experience every day in Stardew Valley. Whereas, and like time stops if you are not in game. And that was one of the things that I really loved about it, was it wasn't like reliant on playing with a bunch of other people, and you didn't have to be there all the time to like still really fully experience the game.
Okay.
Animal Crossing, on the other hand, which is one of the other games that I have played a lot.
Yeah.
You have to like experience, either you have to time travel, which is only for cheaters, or you have to try to experience the game in all different seasons and all different times of day and week in order to really get like everything in the game, to catalog everything. So like we had this really big problem. I don't remember what was happening in our life at that time, but for some reason,
I'm going to blame it on a kid.
Was it masks? Was it because I was sewing? No, we didn't did we get Animal Crossing during COVID?
Yeah.
Everybody else did, but I felt like we were behind.
So we didn't get it when it dropped, but we definitely got it during COVID.
Well, anyway, I could only get online late at night. So usually like post 9 p.m. Even the Nook brothers were usually closed by that time. So I wasn't getting any new clothes except for the weird workout shirts and wrestling helmets and like the weird stuff your neighbors get you that nobody wants.
Yeah. You didn't have access to like a lot of cool furniture or...
No. And there were like, I couldn't catch butterflies. I mean, I could have catched them if they were even available, but they were not available.
Yeah, you were not. Didn't matter time of the day.
I am not good at catching butterflies. I'm still not great.
We made a whole video on that, actually. It's fantastic.
Like
my heart leaps when I see that come across my timeline.
Well, I mean, and turnips. I still can't buy turnips because they only sell turnips when we are at church.
On Sundays.
On Sundays until noon. That's when you can buy turnips.
So
if we are homesick, you better believe it's a turnip week.
It's turnip week, baby.
But most times, no. And so, I mean, like on one hand, in Stardew Valley, it was kind of cool that it was like, okay, I'm usually like I'm going to do this one thing until I have like done all of this one thing and just hyper focus on this thing before I move on to the next. In Stardew Valley, that's like not really a good strategy. Like you have to, you need to be well balanced, and you can plant your seeds, but you can't sit there and watch them grow. Like you need to be clearing, you need to be foraging, you need to be talking.
Bells. Huh? You need to be earning bells because you got debt to pay off.
Oh, that's in Animal Crossing, but yes.
Isn't that what you said? You said
Stardew Valley. But still, you should always be doing something else. And so it's kind of cool to have that dynamic and two, even translated a little bit, to me at home. Everybody's ADHD right now, right? Everybody is. I do have a tendency sometimes to hyper focus. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And so there have been.
I second the emotion. Yeah.
There have been some times when I'm like hyper focusing on a thing and then thought, probably I need to diversify. And there's something else I ought to be doing. Like I can walk away, and to keep my life running, I need to do a different thing right now, even if that's a good and productive thing, However, the negative part of this whole thing is that the whole reason that game designers are doing it, or at least that it has caught on so well, I think, is that it creates like this feeling of FOMO, I guess.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That I need to be in game. Like, I don't care that it's Christmas. I have to log in to Animal Crossing because I need all the Toy Day things.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Not log in? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Or, that you do need to play at night or whatever.
Or get up early in the morning.
It is a FOMO thing, really. So you spend more time in game. You might, if you can't spend time in game, maybe you might spend a little more money to get the things.
Absolutely.
So that you don't have to spend more time in game.
I mean, that goes back to like the mobile stuff that we were talking about. Not those games in particular, but the smaller games and stuff like that. It's all that gotcha gaming stuff, right? Where like we used to play this really dumb game on Facebook. I've not been able to find it.
Ravenwood Fair?
I don't know.
Ravenwood Fair?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think it was Ravenwood Fair.
We played another one called Papaya Farm. We played several of those little like timed, like farming simulator kind of games. It was kind of Farmville-esque from.
It was
from
Ravenwood Fair.
Okay,
yep.
good.
With the cute little forest animals.
Good memory. Hey, can we play that? Is that still available? I'll let you figure that out. Because I did like that game. But
I just didn't like, what was that thing that you had to have and it was almost impossible to get?
Like
some kind of a sap.
Yeah.
And you really had to spend money to get it.
Or your friends had to get it for you.
Yeah.
Or like whatever.
You had to be obnoxious. It was like
share things on Facebook.
It was like an MLM, but like on Facebook.
Yeah. But we never got any, nothing from it.
Man.
But like all those games and even like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, like that kind of stuff, that's too bad.
Closed down in 2013.
Oh, we just barely missed it. Oh man.
Sounds like it was probably short-lived, to be honest. It was probably around that time we were playing it.
Yeah, we might have played it in 2013. But like what those games do, and most of you that are listening to this, you've played some form of it, whether it be Bejeweled or Harry Potter's Wizarding World.
Puzzles and spells, yes.
Bonanza spell, yeah.
The superior.
Hypothetically speaking, if that may or may not be a game. But like what they do is you get to a point where you can play really hard up to a certain point, and then it says, oh, hey, you know what? You're either out of energy, or that's actually going to take, 45 minutes to complete. Or you could pay.
Yeah. Just put this little fertilizer on your, amend your soil.
No big deal. Hey, everybody's doing it, man.
Yeah. Buy these little power-ups.
It really kind of is like the DARE stuff that we did in school. Those of us that went to public school, and it did not.
DARE?
Yeah.
Ooh-wee.
Because it kind of is like, hey, man, you just use this stuff. Everybody's doing it. Hey, first one's on us, man. Like,
oh yeah, yeah, really that's real. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
look, you have 100 energy. Hey, Tom Nook, here's 50 custom,
Yep.
customizing boxes. They only cost 1,000,000 bells each, but the first 50 of them are on me.
You ever try to not use those things in the games when they give them to you? The game forces you to use them.
It does.
It forces you to, because it wants you to get into the habit. But like the idea is you could still play all of those games, no problem. It would just take you 900 years to do anything.
Or like it's going to take you 1,000,000 years visiting islands to get all of your fruits. Or you ask Tyranny, Hey T, can I just come and visit you and get all of them? Thanks. Yes, maybe.
I mean, like if you were just to do things at the pace that you could actually do them at, it could create like a natural kind of a rhythm. Like, hey, I really only have this much time to do this. And I know that maybe once every couple of weeks, I might have a free morning on a Sunday, or I might have a free evening to log in, or a morning to log in when I couldn't do something, otherwise. Or, hey, I'm not going to get everything for the fall fest or whatever it is in the thing. Now it's not just these really cutesy games that we're talking about. Like we used to play a lot of Destiny 2. It was the same thing in there. World of Warcraft, a lot of these MMOs, right? Massive multiplayer online games.
Season passes or campaigns that are only available for a certain time, and everybody's playing them right now.
I mean, like it's a very common thing where the idea is you could still just play the game and be fine, or you could break a natural rhythm to advance. Like you could get out of the rhythm and just advance. And so we got to thinking about that, and we were like, man, I wonder what that looks like from a spiritual standpoint. Like how do these stupid things that we do in video games and our impatience or our patience in video games, how can that, what is the correlation between like the digital and our spiritual spaces? And so I don't know, you and I have been kind of thinking about some things in our own lives in where we've kind of felt a little bit disjointed with each other at times, and also, spiritually speaking. For those of you, like I said at the top of the show, for those of you that don't know, we're married. Sometimes we're very married on this podcast.
And by very married, we're talking about bickering and not making out.
No.
Ew, gross.
Y'all don't want to see that.
Ugh.
Yeah. And if you do, you're in the wrong podcast. Like that's just, but at the end of the day, like we talk pretty often about the spaces that create, this like uncomfortable, like friction in our lives. And one of those things for us is spiritual states. And so I don't know, we want to just kind of sit here for just a second and just kind of think about, and maybe, again, we don't answer questions.
Not really, no.
We're going to give you maybe some possible paths forward, because I'm a big fan of those. Not just critique for the sake of critique, even when it comes from personal space, but like, what are some things that like we have been doing, and maybe that by extension, listeners and viewers, you guys could also be doing if you're feeling some of the same, kind of friction and tension in your own spaces.
Well, I mean, so first of all, I was thinking about, time
traveling in video games, obviously.
No.
Which, for those of you that don't know, time traveling in as much as we're talking about it, is literally just resetting or setting your clock and date to a different time on your Nintendo Switch. That's what time travel is.
Cheating.
You wouldn't know. You've never done it.
Because I'm not a dirty cheater.
I'll agree to disagree. But anyway,
there are two different camps. There are the people who time travel.
Stuff.
Yes. And then there are the people who do things the right way.
Yeah.
The complainers. Huh?
The complainers.
Yes. And are also broke, probably. Yeah. No, I was actually thinking about like in the church world. So one of the things that comes up a lot on this podcast is like you were a quote unquote professional Christian for like 12 years. Yep. You were on staff at a church. I kind of was, but wasn't paid for it, as most churches do it that way. Yeah. Like be very available, 2-for-1 kind of deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But we've talked about, the church. Whoa, sorry guys. The church as a large structure and the way that we do it here in the United States. And the ups and downs of that a little bit. And one of the things that we tend to do at church is over programming. And
yeah.
kind of this similar thing to what video game designers do, where it's like, we are going to fill up every moment of every single day with something to do. And I think it comes from a good place. It isn't so much like, let's make all the money. It's more like, well, everybody's lives and rhythms run differently, which I'm going to circle back to this, but our lives in general don't have as much of a natural rhythm as maybe they did 50 to 100 years ago.
Right.
So everybody's working on these different seasons and different daily schedules. And so it's like, there are some people where we don't want to create a turnip situation where it's like, they're always busy from 9 to noon on Sundays and can never come to worship. So we need to create experiences outside of that, experiences for everyone. Everyone in every walk of life needs to be able to come to our building at any moment and be able to experience Jesus and community and, you know, all of these things. And so the motivation is like, you know, good. Yeah. But then what ends up happening is very similar to what happens to people in video games, where it's like people, instead of viewing it as an additional offering or like an alternative offering, rather, they view it as an additional thing. So I need to do all of these things and volunteer in all of these places and, you know, overtax ourselves and get completely exhausted and fatigued and then burn out and then deconstruct, you know, like it's all a whole thing that happens, and then like feel used and all this stuff when it's like, are we shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit? Maybe. I don't know. And this is not a question that we're going to answer and be like, here's the right way. You church in the United States of America. I mean, because our church even is in the middle of adding another like worship service, basically, in order to provide a time for people who maybe are on strenuous like sports schedules or servers, or, you know, there's lots of people who can't come.
100,000 other reasons.
Right. And so, you know, I think it's a good thing, but I don't know. How do we avoid that mindset of, I need to do all of the things? Yeah. And how do we teach our fellow church members, chill. Yeah. You don't have to do everything.
I think that, like, for me, it's always been a thing about like the culture. Right? Like everything is some form of a culture war. And it doesn't need to sound as like dark and brooding and ominous as it does sound. But even in church, there's a culture war. There are things that people in your church are or are not going to be able to engage in. But when we use terminology and we set expectations that you have to be at this. You want to be there. You want to be here. Oh, you move everything in your schedule around to be here. I don't know that that's us being necessarily like sensitive enough to the actual needs of the person that we're trying to reach, period. Now, could be a church. It could be like Love Thy Nerds, a parachurch organization. Like we try not to create those kinds of, like really strenuous moments in a person's spiritual walk, because I know what that's like. Like a lot of it is just poured out of my personal experience. I know what it's like to miss something. I also know what it's like to not miss anything. And that can be just as like weighty. Being at everything can be just as weighty as missing the thing that you want to be at or that you feel like you need to be at. And so we always try to help people understand, like, hey, you weren't able to make it to this mission trip. No worries. Here's another one that you could go to. It's the idea that there may always be another thing for you to do, not to feel like you need to do something. And also, we tend to under-program more than we over-program.
I love thy nerd.
Yeah. And a lot of that comes out of my time in church. like it just in general, like the 12 years. We had a guy, he probably never listens to this podcast, but I'm not going to use his name anyway, right? And his thought process and his idea was that if you have a church building, you had better be using it. Like he came from a finance background, funding and all sorts of stuff, and helped a lot of people in ministries and churches, kind of come into existence and get paid for. And so he would say to us and to other people, he would say, if you're going to have a building, it had better not sit vacant. Now that comes from a place of him funding things, right? And not wanting to just,
balcony is like good stewardship.
100%. 100%.
Basement is like, potential to drive people into the ground. What we
found in that particular situation was that, like, again, none of the specifics are important, but they're important, but they're not important to the overall scheme of what I'm saying here. That particular entity had no business doing events upon events. The things that they did were not reaching the people in the community. They weren't furthering the gospel, and it wasn't growing the church. Like all of the markers that even this other person might have said, all right, cool. It's just like, no. We just did programming. And so I would say that if that's the only thing that we're trying to do is just create more times for people to do stuff, going back to the whole point of this here podcast episode, rhythm, a solid tone, like one long tone, is not a rhythm. It does not a rhythm make. A rhythm is beats, it's rests, right? It's ons, it's offs, sometimes it's regular, sometimes it's irregular. People that have way more understanding of music theory can tell you, like, the more you kind of mix it up, the better it is. Sometimes you need a steady rhythm, right? And sometimes you need to get people's attention with an irregular rhythm. And so I think that whatever the season is that we find ourselves in, we just have to be cognizant of, do we need a steady rhythm or do we need an irregular rhythm? But if it's just go, 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 that's not a rhythm. It's just not a rhythm. And so, those are some of the things that I would just kind of think of as we're going into this thing. We use a phrase here at Love Thy Nerd that we don't let people sacrifice themselves on the altar of ministry. Right. And I've probably said that a couple of times. Again, it's been over years since we've done an episode, so I can't really tell you. But when I'm talking about Love Thy Nerd, I actually was just in a cohort the other day with a woman who runs an organization called Soul Care. And I shared this with her as well, that we don't let people sacrifice themselves on the altar of ministry. Like, you think I'm asking for 60 hours from you, and I'm not. I might only be asking for 10. But how do we find the middle ground if you think that you're a solid tone and I'm looking for
right?
I'm looking for you to hit on the downbeat of every measure. I want you on the one.
Well, I think that it comes up a lot with us, just as people, the whole concept of rest and Sabbath and all these things. There are people who struggle with holding still. And so COVID was really hard for some of those people because everybody had to hold still. And then there were some people that were like, oh my goodness, I hadn't held still in so long. I didn't know how much I needed it. Because I said I was going to come back to this. We are in this culture, that has been like seasons. God made seasons. Seasons are for the weak.
Yeah, prove it.
Where we value productivity so highly because it's money. It's money. But it's like, oh, sun goes down. Turn the lights on. If a restaurant is closed, like, how dare they? Hours of the day, those don't exist. Like, all of those are opportunities to make money. Our vegetables, not very seasonal, truthfully, at the grocery store. Right now, you could go and buy a fruit or vegetable that grows in a completely different season from the one you're in, because either we have like greenhouses and stuff that people are growing them in here, or we're importing them from somewhere there where they currently are growing, because we in the United States of America would like to be completely limitless. Like the boundaries of days and seasons, we're like, blech, no, thank you. And so, that makes it hard. I think that we as a people, and thus also as Christians, are like a bit disoriented from the lack of just natural seasons of things. Because there is this culture of being always on. Yeah. And then we also feel like that is right and like it's noble somehow. And not to say that I think I've had times when I was like, we just need the entire church to just shut down for a little bit. That would be great. That's what I feel like I need. Yeah. And I think I can probably speak for at least one other person who feels like we just need to shut down. You are in a position that some ministries have seasons that are busier than others. Children's ministry tends, like they've got the VBS in the summer, or Bible studies tend to be on all during the year, or the worship ministry might have a really big musical around Christmas or Easter or something like that. But all of those things need tech, and all of those things need childcare. Those two ministries don't really, it's like they don't stop. And so,
no, they do not.
It's completely exhausting. I don't necessarily know that that everything needs to stop. I think I need to chill and be a little bit more balanced than that. But I think that we need to create space for people to power down, and be like, hey, you do not have to do everything. And I think that one of the biggest gifts that we can give to one another is if a person does, like, recognizing in them when they need a break, if they say they need a break, you say, yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean,
go take a break.
That's been one of the biggest things for me from a leadership standpoint, is like understanding the rhythms that people not are in, but should be in. Now, again, I'm not completely projecting all of my stuff onto them, but I tell people a lot of times, one of my major jobs is to save my employees from themselves, to save the people that report to me from themselves, because we have this idea of burnout, which again is a tone, right? It's not a rhythm, it's a tone. And that comes from an organization. It comes from a place of business or employment or whatever. It's an unrealistic expectation, whether explicit or implicit, that you need to operate at this level, right? When a lot of this can be cut off at the head by just managing expectations, having clear and concise conversations with people. If it's me as a leader, or whomever as a leader, to say to somebody, hey, I need you to be able to do this, and that person just go, hey, I'm not your huckleberry here. Like I don't have the capacity to do this. To be able to have that conversation, or on the other end, for them to go, look, I'm working around the clock. It's like, no, I don't need you to do that. We actually have this much time. Or, hey, I've got a big expectation and you can't meet that. I'm not going to ask you to do that. Not because I don't think that you're worth anything, but because I want you to have a healthy rhythm, and I don't want you to be a shell of yourself when you go home. Whether you go home to yourself to just like be alone and rest and recharge, or you go home to a family. Either way, you going home as a shell of yourself it's not worth it.
Yeah, because I think that we have glorified over productivity, and to the point that we feel like, oh, that person is so noble.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have worked so hard. And, I can understand that, but then it's really hard knowing certain families where, you know, the one person has done that noble work and the toll that it took on their mental health or on their marriage or on their children was so great that it's like, is this honoring to the Lord? Is this noble? And
probably not.
And there's no clear answer. Because when you're the person who's always being, you know, when you've been the one who's been met in crisis by that person, you're going to be like, that changed my life. And,
absolutely.
And that was, you know, great. But obviously there are a lot of podcasts out there now about people who have had unhealthy relationships with their ministries, or like didn't have good boundaries, or whatever it is, where it's like, we got to figure this out.
We got to figure it out.
And so, part of it is, you know, up to us, you know, like being kind to one another. Some of it is up to us as individuals, making sure that we are doing the work and taking care of ourselves, taking care of our families, and having to say some hard no's sometimes in order to do that. Or sometimes putting our big boy or big girl pants on and doing things differently than we were doing them. Like, we found ourselves in a weird spot after I took the job at the church full time. Because I've been working at our church part-time or contract labor, or like just weird little pockets of time for a really long time. Because frankly, like, I don't know, church work is just what I feel like I have always felt like I needed to be doing.
You and I are ideal church workers.
And so,
better or worse,
you know, they offered me this job and I talked to you about it and we agreed, like, man, yes.
Yeah.
Like, we feel like this has been really an answer to prayer. This is the right call. But that didn't mean that just because it was the right call or an answer to prayer that I started doing it and that everything in our life just stabilized, because it did not, you guys.
Did the opposite of that. Yeah, did the opposite of that.
I've always had respect for people who, you know, or working mothers or whatever, because stay-at-home mom stuff, I mean, both of those things have really hard just things about them. You know, when you're a stay-at-home mom, it's that, like, you are always in the same place. You don't really get a break. The laundry never stops. You don't get to talk to adults very much, etc. The working mom stuff is like, gosh, like, I feel like things are falling apart at home or whatever, but like, I feel powerless to really do anything about that, because by the time I come home, like, I am so exhausted or whatever. And so a lot of stuff started falling on you. I tried to do everything under the sun. Like, I'm going to do this job outside the home for 7 hours a day, and nothing is going to fall through the cracks at home. I can do it all. Could not.
Spoiler alert.
She could not, in fact, do it all. And so I started falling apart emotionally, which I was kind of ready for this a little bit, because I had talked to some friends who were like, I was like, how long before stabilizing? I know this is going to be an adjustment, like a month. And they were like, no, try like 3 months.
Yeah.
And here we are, like 6 months later, and maybe starting to do better.
Yeah, we're starting. Yeah.
But there was a point where you and I had our pastor calls it a moment of intense fellowship. Again, not making out.
I know that's what it sounds like, but I promise it wasn't.
It was like,
I can promise it wasn't.
It was not a fun conversation. And I was like, well, we're not going to have a conversation that hard and not have a game plan at the end of it. And so I stayed up what felt like all night one night, being like, okay, I'm going to reevaluate all of my time, and I'm going to find every moment of overlap where we could spend time together. And we're both like, if we care about our relationship, let's prioritize it in such a way that we both treat this time like it is the others, and do our very best to be intentional with those moments that we have. And also, here's how we can change in the way we talk to each other at home with, trying to prioritize listening to the other one about their day.
Yeah.
And here are the tasks that I can do, and here are the tasks that I can't do. And here are the tasks that you could do that I can't, vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it did turn into this fruit basket upset kind of thing where we're both doing a lot of different things than we were doing before. I'm doing most of the taxiing and being out and picking things up from around town, and you're doing a lot of the laundry. A lot of different
cooking
rituals for you, which I'll let you talk about. But you have a different rhythm for your life.
We're a crockpot family now.
Yes, we are.
We had a couple of friends of ours from church that gave us a Ninja Foodie, and not a sponsor, but hot dang if they want to be. We use that thing every day for almost 2 weeks straight, and then have used it every single week, multiple times a week since we've gotten it. And so like that became part of a rhythm. And I honestly, like right now in the last couple of days, I know when I'm out of that rhythm, because I'm like, we didn't talk about what we're eating tomorrow, so I don't know what I need to put into the crock pot.
So the answer is nothing.
Yeah, do you like pizza or not? Pizza in the crock pot. And so, but that's one thing that I've started to do is like, it's a responsibility that I have, but I've been able to turn it because of the prep work and all that stuff. And I'm just assuming that this is what, women that have been staying at home and doing this stuff for hundreds of thousands of years have been doing, is making these part of their, like these moments of like responsibility, part of their spiritual rhythm and ritual.
Like the repetition of it all.
And come to find out that with at least one person that we know, that's exactly what it has been. We were at the Super Bowl, and we were visiting our good friends, the Stubblefields, shocker. And so for those of you that are local and you know, and that's our worship pastor and his wife and their family, they're fantastic. Love them to death. And so we're talking about this episode that we've recorded 9 billion times now, and talking about rhythm. And one of the things that I have been doing outside of the crockpot stuff for rhythm is we have a daily audio playlist that I'll talk about here in just a minute. But I listen to that while I'm doing pour over coffee, because now I'm one of those.
Yes.
Our good friend Brett Vance, this little bean of mine, go buy his coffee. It's all fantastic. He's a coffee guy because he runs,
only professionally, and in all of his spare time.
And so you go to his house and he has this entire like setup for all these things. And so he's like grinding the beans and weighing them and doing, slow pour and making by the cup, like all sorts of stuff. And I found myself just like falling in love with that moment. Like and all that stuff. And so as he's talking to me, I'm at his house a couple weeks ago. At this point now, I'm just on Amazon, just buying all the stuff that he's talking about.
As one does, if one is Bubba.
Hey, you know what? It's just, this is my life now. And so the stuff comes in and I have him tell me, hey, what was how many beans per cup? Like what was the time in the pour over and all sorts of stuff. Well, it takes about 5 to 7 minutes from like start to finish to get a cup of coffee. Okay. That's like grinding the beans, because we get whole bean, grinding the beans, doing the pour over, boiling the kettle. We have an electric kettle, whole 9 yards. So
good investment.
It's like 5 to 7. We've used it for so much. I made ramen with it today. Not in the kettle. But I know people that have. But
ew, gross.
So you have 5 to 7 minutes, and I've been filling that time that you're just standing there waiting for the coffee to finish, right? A lot of it is passive. I've been filling that time with listening to the Bible. For a long time, it was kind of ingrained in me that you had to read. right? Like if somebody reads to you, it doesn't count. I just know that that's not true.
Nope, studies have shown that's not true.
I didn't need anybody to study to tell me that, because I read most of my books, heavy air quotes on read, on Audible. And man, I have retained so much of that information, and it has made me a better husband, father, leader, Christian, whatever, right? A lot of stuff that I don't talk to a lot of people about that I'm intaking. And so this daily audio Bible playlist that we have through Love Thy Nerd, which you can get it by going to lovethynerd.com/daily and subscribe on YouTube or Spotify. It's free. It's 100% free. Like it's not a spot for you to go buy something, right?
Subscribe and save.
If you want ad free, you're going to need Spotify Premium. But at the end of the day, it's this opportunity for you to turn the passive moments of your life into active spiritual moments of formation, right? And discipleship, where it's like, okay, well, hey, we're just going to be hearing Leviticus right now. The odds of me sitting down and reading Leviticus, zero.
Are you in Leviticus right now?
I'm in Leviticus right now.
Okay.
And so but it's that idea that I'm going to have that moment every day, because Jaboy needs his coffee, right? So I'm going to sit there and make the coffee. Now, I have more time than just those 5 to 7 minutes, because I also have the crock pot meals that I'm doing. And those have prep time and all sorts of stuff. And so what I'll do is I'll start with the crock pot before I do my coffee. And when I start the crock pot, I just cast onto our little Google Hub in our kitchen, and I just let it. And the playlist has Old Testament, it's got New Testament, it has songs, it has a lo-fi worship, meditative stuff. And then it also has like a sermon or, a podcast at the end of it. So all said, like the full amount of time that I would just be doing literally nothing, I'm now able to take that, and it's become a rhythm of mine Monday through Friday. Okay. It's become a rhythm of mine to do this. And if I can't get to it, it makes me feel weird. It makes me feel like I'm off. Right. But it's not about making sure and being legalistic about hitting the rhythm every time. It's about being consistent and persistent in the moments when I can, right? And so like it's not just my circumstances or whatever, but there's going to be days where I'm traveling and I just can't do the things. I'm not going to have those 5 to 7 minutes. I'm not going to be able to have the playlist downloaded or like whatever, or I'm going to be busy. Like I have meetings or whatever. But the idea is that there are these pockets of time, these moments that we have that we're just not doing anything with. It's my entire call to ministry, especially, nerd culture ministry to be specific. I might as well be doing something while I'm doing nothing. Like, I feel like that's my epitaph, right? Like that's what's going to go on my tombstone. Doing something while I'm doing nothing. And so it's just an effort for me to kind of move in this way with responsibilities I have, and then also just doing my coffee in the morning, or sitting down and, working on website stuff that I do, or checking email, or, doing receipts or whatever. It's like, there are these moments where I'm watching Suits right now. Crazy show, but I'm watching Suits right now. And it's like, man, I have to make the choice. Am I going to watch Suits, or am I going to finish my Bible reading?
Yeah.
Sometimes I choose to watch Suits, right? Let it go on in the background. That thing will always pull me away and divert me from my work. I know that it will, but I still do it, right? Whereas with the Bible and the podcasts and stuff like that, that motivates me to do more of my work. I'm like, well, I'm going to sit down here and finish this because I know that I've got 15 minutes left in this podcast and I want to finish this podcast. And so I stay and I do, the 15 minutes more worth of work instead of getting up and, going outside or, whatever. It's okay. It's good to go outside, but like, like being distracted from the things that I need to get done. And so those are some of just a few of the rhythms that I have found and started to create in my life, because I can't tell you how many Bible reading plans I've started and stopped. I know I'm pretty well versed in Genesis, if you catch my drift. But it's good to have that and to know I can miss,
Mm-hmm.
It's not not the end of the world. It's totally passive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's checking in on me, but they could if they wanted to. Because all you gotta do is go and find that playlist, and you know exactly where I'm at in the Bible and what I'm listening to. And I'd love to have conversations with anybody about that stuff. Sometimes I do. Whether it's in our life group or online or what have you, in podcasts, all sorts of stuff. The things just naturally come up if you're in them all the time. And so, I don't know. I mean, as we start to land the plane here, because we could, again, talk forever and ever and ever about these things. We're trying to find spaces of rhythm in our life. One of the things that we do relationally is we just very simply, how was your day?
Yep.
Now it's up to the other person to answer that question. Okay. When I ask my kids, how was your day? And they say, good.
Good.
And that's it. And I'm like, pretend like I wasn't there.
The school burned down.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a good day. Why did you not tell me this?
Oh, yeah.
This is how I felt recently.
But
no, the school didn't burn down, but big things happening.
But when we say, how was your day? It's usually either a good thing or a long sigh and a head roll back or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, hey, we're about to kind of talk about what went down. And sometimes, legitimately speaking, I'll just say, and it'll say to me, nothing really of note. How was your day?
Mm-hmm.
Let's bypass all the boring email that I did today, and let's talk about something that happened with you. And so that came out of you and I not having a lot of conversations, period. And so finding a rhythm of conversation and connection was very important for us because, we felt like that was...
Well, so there's, it's weird how sometimes routines can be a good thing, or sometimes if you haven't been careful about the way that you make them, then they can become isolating. And that's where we got for just a little bit, where it was okay, we just got to shake it up a little bit and figure out how to be intentional with it. Yeah. So, my thing was, before I will talk about my day to anybody, at any given moment. I never struggle with talking. But
no comment.
Saying my commitment to you in this moment of intense fellowship that we had is that before I just start prattling on about my day, I'm going to make sure that I've asked you first how yours was.
Yeah. And
then if you want to bounce it back to me, that's fine.
Yeah. You're lost, buddy.
But I'm not, that's what I can do for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, hey, again, we don't answer a lot of questions. If you glean something out of this episode, fantastic. That's what we hope. But we would really love for you to have this conversation with your significant other, your spouse, your mother, your father, somebody close to you in your life, a community group, if you have one, your church, your family of faith, whatever it is, any of those things, or all of those things that you think it would be useful for. What are the rhythms in your life that are missing? What are the rhythms that are off? You have a tone or a rhythm, right? Kind of define those a little bit for yourself. And then what do you need to do to get into a more sustainable rhythm for at least that season that you're in? Love to hear about those. Hit us up online at Love Thy Nerd on all major platforms. We'd love to talk to you more about that. But before we get out of here, we love to leave everybody with the verse.
Yep.
Because church stuff.
Church Nerd semi-weekly verse.
The church Nerd's Bible verse.
It used to be weekly. We're going to shoot for every 2 weeks.
Every other week.
And try to work through the pathogens. This one
you said
is...
cabbages. You said pathogens.
Cabbages.
So this is the thing I tell our kids. Give your brain a moment to work. Instead of going, what did you say? Cabbages.
Cabbages. Okay. This verse comes from Genesis. If you know me, you know I love Genesis.
Told you I'm pretty well versed
and
in Genesis.
2. I love Genesis 1 and 2, and also the rest of it, but mostly 1 and 2. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth." And it was so. I like that verse because there is something reassuring about knowing that the sun is going to rise and set every day in the same place, and that things are in sort of a cycle. And I don't know, like those boundaries feel comforting and good and safe sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially in this culture that kind of rejects them. And I think that's what, you know, if you're struggling and feeling in a funk, I think we need to try to shift our mindset from viewing days and seasons as limits, to shift into viewing them as something that we are created for, like that we were created or was created for us. Maybe, I don't know how you want to view it, but that's how we work.
Yeah.
And that those things are good things. And so how can I be intentional within these rhythms and cycles and just accept them and use them for the best? So
that's good stuff. Well, hey, let us know. We want to hear from you online. Like I said, at Love Thy Nerd on all major platforms.
Love Thy Nerd. Did you say Love Thy Nerd? I heard Love Thy
Are
Nerd.
you kidding me? Why would I say Love
Cabbages.
Thy Nerd? Love Thy Nerd on all major platforms. And on our website at lovethynerd.com. But hey, we're going to get out of here. Do us a favor. Go check us out on all those places. And also make sure that you're following us on social media. And if you need a rhythm, Love Thy Nerd. Now you got me. I can't even say it correctly. lovethynerd.com/daily. A Spotify and a YouTube playlist that you can follow. It is updated. You only have to follow one playlist. That's it. It's updated daily and you don't have to worry about anything else. If you're a perfectionist, it is broken down into each individual day. You can go and do that. But this is just here for you to come and join us as we go through the Bible. You can also, if you have the YouVersion Bible app, we have a 3-day reading plan called Jesus Loves You Nerd. Just go and search for that. And we'd love for you to give us some feedback. There are more of those coming this year. We're working with churches on creating curriculum, more resources coming out. And we're just kind of helping people love and serve the nerds that are in their space more effectively. If you have anything else that you would like for us to help you with, you personally or with your church or your community group or anything like that, hit us up online or send me an email, bubba@lovethynerd.com. I'd love to talk with you more about it. Once again, I'm Bubba Stallcup.
I'm Anna.
And we'll catch you next time on another episode. I don't know, another page? I don't know what I'm doing anymore. On another episode of the Church Nerds Podcast. And if no one else tells you this, just remember it's true. Jesus loves you, nerd.